Okay. Tendai Wadi, Tendai Wadi, Tendai Wadi. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah
Garvey
lives.
lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Yay!
Royal elders, kings and queens, princes and princesses of great Mama Africa bring greetings in the most precious, powerful, and bountiful name of our motherland, Alkebu-Lan, and the spirits of our most gracious ancestors, in the prayer of oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people on the face of Mother Earth. Tendai Wadi. Regai mazwenda tara nefunga domayo mango, the dikundimi mwadi, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Jah of our creation. Tendai Wadi. Greetings, Tendai Wadi. Greetings, elders, sisters, brothers, princes, and princes of great Mama Africa. Welcome to our final online Mosiah session for the year 6260, which some of you may know as 2020. We give thanks and praises for you joining us once again, sisters and brothers. It's an online session where we're going to deal with a very serious subject of our children's education for our liberation, sisters and brothers. We give thanks and praises. So just to be clear, for those of you who are unaware, this is being hosted by the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement. We initiated the Mosiah Community Observance in the year 1998. So 23 years on, we're still honoring the life and legacy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey through the 8th month of the year, which we've renamed Mosiah, because we are not the children of Augustus Caesar. We are the children of Mosiah. We are Garvey's children. So we give thanks and praises. And the least we can do is give over 1 month to honor our eminent prophet and king, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So give thanks, sisters and brothers. Welcome to the home of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement online, the Alkebu-Lan Way YouTube channel. For those unaware, the word sounds Tendai Wadi, simply means be thankful unto the Creator. In the Shona language of Zimbabwe, in the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement, we open speech, we close speech, we punctuate the proud word with African words. African word sounds Tendai Wadi. Tendai simply means give thanks or give praises, and Wadi is one of the many African names for the Creator, Wadi. So we give thanks and praises for you joining us, sisters and brothers. This is the Mosiah season, and you've tuned in to hear our warrior empress, Queen Taese, from across the waters. But before we do that, there's certain Mosiah traditions and rituals that we engage in, sisters and brothers. One of the things we did do when we established the Mosiah season in 1998 was create a guide to the season called the Mosiah Daily Affirmations. So each day of the Mosiah season, we read an affirmation, the word sounds of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, accompanied by a commentary by a spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka, the visionary behind the Mosiah observance. And we also have a memory verse for our children for each day, because we realize and appreciate that if our children aren't engaged in what we do, then we will not have a future. So I'm going to begin, sisters and brothers, by reading the affirmation and commentary for day 25 of Mosiah. And day 25 of Mosiah, the affirmation is called, appropriately in this time, the white man's propaganda. So here, sisters and brothers, are the word sounds of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The white man has succeeded in subduing the world by forcing everybody to think his way, from God to his fireside. He has given to the world, from his Bible to his yellow newspaper sheet, a literature that establishes his right and sovereignty to the disadvantage of the rest of the human race. The white man's propaganda has made him master of the world, and all those who have come into contact with it have accepted it and become his slave. Tendai Wadi. Such is the wisdom of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Say, hail to the prouder word, hail to the prouder word, hail to the prouder word. Tendai Wadi. And we next go into the commentary drafted by our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka. And it reads, until the lion learns to write its own history, tales of the lion will continue to glorify the hunter, ancestral wisdom. Propaganda is one of the most potent and deadly weapons used against our people. It is a science and art of persuasion and manipulation of the human mind and behavior. But the mind that is steeped in its Mwari-like essence, that is culturally nourished and politically astute, is immune. Such a strong mind will innovate its own arsenal of propaganda warfare for the defense and restoration of the people's minds and the neutralization of alien weapons of mind destruction. Strengthen your mind through daily study, meditation, and spiritual orientation, and be immune. Such is the wisdom of our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka. Say, hail to the proud of word, hail to the proud of word, hail to the proud of word. And we close this part with our children's memory verse. So if there are any princes and princesses, watotos that are tuned in, I ask them to recite along with me. So I'll recite it very slowly so they can recite along the memory verse, which the watotos will say 3 times. Dive down, black men and women, and dig. Reach up, black men and women, and pull all nature's knowledge to you. Turn ye around, make a conquest of everything, north and south, east and west. And once more, dive down, black men and women, and dig. Reach up, black men and women, and pull all nature's knowledge to you. Turn ye around, make a conquest of everything, north and south, east and west. And one last time, princes and princesses, dive down, black men and women, dig. Reach up, black men and women, and pull all nature's knowledge to you. Turn ye around and make a conquest of everything, north and south, east and west. We say hail to the proud word once again for our eminent prophet, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Hail to the proud word, hail to the proud word, hail to the proud word. To the brothers, just to say, remind you, this is our final Mosiah online session this year. Because of the current situation, the pandemic, or as some let's call it the pandemic, we've been doing more things online. In fact, most of our programs have been online. We've been doing it here on our Alkebu-Lan way, but also on Monday evenings on Galaxy Afiwi, the only D-brain watching station, Galaxy Radio on Africa Speaks. That's from Monday evenings, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. And our final Mosiah session online for Galaxy Radio, it will be next evening, next Monday evening, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we'll be dealing with what is the connection between spirituality and African liberation, part 2, with our esteemed Queen, Mama, Dr. Chenzira Kahina. Now, sisters and brothers, this is something which, if you're serious about liberation, this subject matter will be dear to your heart, because it's one of the keys to our liberation. How we educate our children, how we embed educational principles going forward to future generations. And I can't think of a better person to facilitate this discussion with our warrior queen, Queen Taese, than our sister senior pioneer Kaya Wagadao Bandaka, herself a liberation freedom fighter since her teenage years, an educator for decades. She's a head teacher of our own Imani Day School, Saturday School, the Alkebu-Lan Academy of Excellence, which has been going now for 13 years. But prior to that, she was key in developing our Alkebu-Lan children's program. She's also the female lead of our Movement's Rites of Passage program. Sister Kai, the educator of international renown and the chief officer of our Movement's education department. I'm going to hand over to our senior senior pioneer Kai Awagada Bandaka to take us forward for the rest of this session with Queen Taese. Sister and brother, let's give Sister Kai some love to guide us through this session. Let's say hello, sister and brothers. Hello. Garvey lives. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Give thanks, Sister Kai.
Mosiah lives. Tendamwari. Thank you, Tatenda, brother Olatunji. Weragai mazuya ndina taura nepfungwa zemama yumangu zenziko ne memoire May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Mwari, O Jah, our creation. Tendai Mwari. Sisters and brothers, once again, as Brother Olatunji said, this is the close of our Mosiah season, and it's been a phenomenal year because we are observing 100 years of the red, the black, and the green. We are observing 100 years of the international, oh my God, it slipped me. The Convention of the World, the African Peoples
International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World.
That's it, the International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World, which had over 25,000 people seated at Madison Square Gardens in 1920, and over 100,000 people on parade. Brothers and sisters, you know, that is so phenomenal. And, you know, I just hope and pray that we get there again. But we have to do the work. We have to lay the foundation to make sure that happens, because somebody else is laying the foundation for our children's and our posterity. So I'd also like to, before I present our sister, I'd like to also give honor to the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Brother Leader Bandaka, who since 1987 saw the need for not just bringing in a liberation movement with a spirituality at its center, which we call Alkebu-Lan Liberty, living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture, but also the second program that we had was our children's program. And he always said that, you know, if we're doing this work and we're not passing it down to our children, it's a waste of time. We're just going in circles. And so the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement was always centered around the development of our children. And we're always inspired by brothers and sisters who come here to really take our children onto the next level, taking our race onto the next level. Before I introduce our sister, I'd just like to share a few words of Papa Garvey's from the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 1 and 2. And he says, education is a medium by which a people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and glory of their own race. So I'd like us to keep that in mind, brothers and sisters, as we proceed. But let me introduce our special guest this afternoon. Just let you know, if you see me leaning forward, it's because my eyesight isn't that great. So Queen Taese, also known as the Queen of Black Homeschooling, is an award-winning master educator for 20 plus years, a 3-category best-selling author, international keynote speaker, curriculum developer, Black homeschool educational consultant, and visionary who is a trailblazing businesswoman and homeschool mother for over 23 years. She has worked directly with over 50,000 Black children and families in diverse settings and has now officially expanded her brand to 12 countries, having an even greater impact throughout the Afrikan Diaspora. Queen Taese has founded the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Educational Institute, which is an educational empire foregoing a new reality for the holistic cultivation of children throughout the Afrikan Diaspora. Its trifold mission consists of the cultural development of Black children as scholars, leaders, passion-preneurs, and innovators that serve the Black community, empowerment of the Black family, and the creation and maintenance of the intergenerational wealth that is needed to shape a future full of prosperity, power, and legacy. The Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Educational Institute features an online campus for both youth and adults, and a remarkable membership while serving as a pillar that provides culturally relevant resources, training, and vast options of everyday support for a true lifestyle. Queen Taese continues to create and provide support to culturally conscious community projects and endeavors aimed at liberating the minds of African families everywhere. She is currently traveling to share her story as a speaker, passion-preneur, coach, and masterclass facilitator, offering information, inspiration, ancient innovative perspectives, and mind-bending tools and techniques that have proven to be life-changing for those who use them. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to take this opportunity to all give a beautiful black hand to our dear, powerful Queen Sister Taese. Let's hear her. Hello! Our subject today is education for liberation. Take it away, sis.
Yes, I want to just say Madasi to everyone here. All of this has just been a sacred opening, and to know that this is, you know, to be in the space with just serious-minded African people who love ourselves, who love each other, who love our children. You know, the energy is so evident just right off the bat. So I appreciate being here. It's such an honor, and it's been a long time coming. So. Yes, everything you said, I am, you know, very passionate about educating our children. And I feel like, you know, that is really the key for our true liberation and sovereignty, is whatever we are doing as adults, whatever, you know, with the detoxification of our own indoctrination, as we work this process of reclaiming our true African selves and relinquishing, you know, all that is not of us, so that way we can stand in our power. We have to make sure that we are transferring that to our children each and every day. So that is something that I take pride in. That has been my passion pretty much my whole life, you know, and I'm just so blessed to be able to stand in it further and further each and every day, each and every week, each and every month, each and every year. And I'm grateful for every moment. So yes, the Liberated Minds, we have been around for we'll have our 10th anniversary this coming year. We just left our 9th anniversary. Liberated Minds really just started with just a vision of people, you know, they were asking a lot of questions around homeschooling. And because I have been homeschooling for so long, it's been about 23 years now, there was a point in time where there were not the resources that are available right now for our children and for our families, and the resources in such as books and curriculum materials, the resources in terms of the training, because we do have to retrain ourselves, as most of us were brought up in the public school system or under this colonialized mindset. So there is training involved and studying involved that we have to do as parents and as adults and as educators to make sure that we are not passing along the same pathologies that we experience. So the training for me was very important, as well as the support system, because, you know, education is done in a social structure within indigenous traditions all around the world. You know, there's no separation between family and community and education. It is all one, it's all unified. There's no fragmentation with that. So it's really just, you know, getting back to our true selves and our way that has worked for us for thousands of years. And so throughout my homeschooling journey, it has been definitely some trials and tribulations, some challenges, but lots of triumphs that make it so worth it. I have 7 children, and 2 were bonus children, you know, through marriage, and the others were born, you know, through my womb. And I definitely vowed that they would never touch the public school system. That was, and even at a young age, I was 25, I think, when I had my first child. Even at a young age, that was very important to me, even not knowing exactly how to move forward, how to proceed. And I just want to first just let everybody know that you can do it. I want to start with that. And it's just not a cheer and a slogan, but we can do it collectively. And so if you are in a space where you're just trying to decide and just figure out, is this journey for you? Is this road for you? Let's look at our children and let's say, are they worth reaching their true divine potential of who they are? This is not about choosing the greatest career for them. This is about, you know, allowing their divine purpose to unfold. And so when I focus, that's what I focus on, is, You know, am I cultivating the divine purpose in my children? And I say all my children, I have a community of children. You know, am I able to, you know, see who they are much deeper than just the skills they have, but also from a spiritual space? You know, our children are spiritual giants, and they come here with messages for us. And, you know, it's a reciprocal process. So just as they have chosen us as parents, we've also chosen them as children from the etheric realm. And so they come here to teach us and pull out of us our greatness is the same that we do for them. So it's not so much about, you know, can we do it? It's will we do it? Do we have the determination? I say yes. When we pull together as family and we begin to dissect where the challenges are, and we look at, you know, what are the areas we need to get more informed and more educated about, we can begin to build our competence, which will build our confidence, which will bring us the victory that we are looking for. So I just want to start with that, just sharing a little bit about Liberating Minds, our purpose, our mission. And, you know, the expo was birthed out of our homeschool, which was originally called Roots to Fruits. And the name speaks for itself. It's from the roots of our ancestors to the fruits of our youth. And it's an opportunity for us to give thanks to the ancestors' shoulders that we stand on, give thanks to our elders that guide us along the way, and showing our children that there's a circle of life and our families, that, you know, there's a circle that we're working with that is in our DNA. And if we tap into that, we're able to really bring out the genius in our children, not just in words, but in actuality. So one of the things that I always say is that, you know, when we declare that we are going to be in the driver's seat of our children's education, you know, whether your children are in public school, private school, whatever situation you're in, you know, it's about starting where you are. It's about picking up the pieces. It's about deciding what is most important to my family that I want my children to know. And so I always start with a mission statement. You know, a mission statement is something usually we attribute to a business. But I want us to look at the mission statement for our family. And the mission statement really serves as a compass. It's a guide that shows us and reminds us of our purpose, of our reasoning for why we do what we do. It also is a core set of values and traditions and morals that, regardless of what family member it is, that we all want them to share. And we know, like, the mission statement is kind of the trunk of the tree, and the branches serve as our own individual divine purposes. But when we come together, we make that tree of life, right? We bring it to fullness. And so when we look at our mission statement, it will always be a reminder sometimes when we go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, or we're trying to make decisions to decide if certain things make sense. We can always look at that mission statement and bring everything back to its core. And it's also important for the creation of intergenerational wealth. And a lot of times we talk about intergenerational wealth, we're speaking from a monetary standpoint or economic standpoint. But what I believe is that, you know, if our children and our family members are not on one accord, as we see all the time, we have so many empires that are built and squandered in one generation, sold to people that don't look like us, right? And just to family members who just could care less about the hard work that it took to build that empire. So when we are on one accord, we can assure true intergenerational wealth, that our children will carry on the legacy and they will understand your principles and your values. And, you know, I feel like that is one of the most important things when we talk about generational wealth and legacy. It is the culture of family. It is the culture of African people and how we live. So I like to say our culture is our cure. Our culture is our cure. It is everything that we need. And any ills that come up in our society, anytime we have questions around, you know, which way do we go? How do we handle this? All we need to do is look to our culture indigenously. How was this handled? You know, and we have to reconstruct, because our community is not what it used to be. We understand that. Our village does not always reflect our own morals and values, but we have the opportunity to choose those that we want in our village, those that we want in our personal intermittent community in between, you know, our family in the world, right? And a lot of people do ask that question around homeschooling. It's one of the greatest questions that people ask is, how do your children get to socialize? Do they get to socialize at all? Do they get to do anything with other children? And so my question, my answer to that is, always that it's important for my children to socialize with those environments that I want them to be around. Our children need to be in nurturing environments. They need to be environments that we have chosen that are befitting for where we want our children to go. And so in terms of socialization, African people, we're the most social people on the planet. This is who we are, right? So, socialization is definitely not the issue. We have to choose, elders. We have to choose family, family members, even if it's just quote unquote friends. I don't generally say friends. I say sisters or brothers that have like mindsets, because sometimes our family is not ready to support us on this journey. That's just a reality. There's many families. I know my family has been very supportive, sometimes with question marks, like, what is she doing? I've never heard of what way she's going about this, but what they've always been able to see is the end result. And so a lot of times they didn't question, in their mind, they probably were questioning. They didn't question out loud because, it's not about convincing people of your journey. We are on a journey of breaking chains. This is serious work. We're on a journey of liberation. We're on a journey of opening up the minds and the infinite possibilities of greatness for our children. And not everybody's ready to embark on that journey. Not everybody is. So it's important that we create a community of like minds, and that, yes, we try to engage our family and bring them along the way, but it's definitely not about convincing anyone. One of the things that a lot of people get caught up in is trying to prove that their journey is the way. And so what I always say is, let the children be the light. Let them prove through their actions. They will show, they will glow, they will radiate to bring about, how this is really supposed to look when they're full of joy, of learning, when they have peace, when they have the ability to create, because a lot of times we limit our children around our own expectations. So homeschooling for me is, the universe is our classroom. The world is our classroom. We have an opportunity to create curriculum that is a direct reflection of our child's divine purpose. We have an opportunity to allow them to learn outside of the classroom and to learn with experiences and not just worksheets and a desk and a table and the four walls around them, but giving them the opportunity to get out and experience real hands-on learning, whether it's field trips, whether it's traveling, whether it's connecting with other brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora, even if it's via Zoom or via phone call or via letter. We can be as creative as we want to be in our souls and our hearts and our spirit of creating a living curriculum. I like to say living because it brings the essence of life to the forefront and it activates it. And it allows us to be able to expand on our expectations. And a lot of our expectations have been given to us by Yoruba, right? Our expectations have been placed before us and we've been told this is what we can achieve and when we can achieve it. And I see how that's hindering us because for thousands of years, we have been the creators of civilization. We have been the ones that have, brought the innovation and the light and the spark to the world. We have been the ones that have operated with nature, universally and complementary. And so we want to make sure that that our expectations are reflective of our culture. And that's getting right back to our culture is our cure. A lot of times we're told, we have to function from an age standpoint and not a stage standpoint. Our children, they learn in stages, not at a certain age. And so when we go by this Yoruba culture, they tell us, okay, when you're 2, you're supposed to do this. And when you're 5, you're supposed to do this. And when you're 10, you're supposed to do this. And when you're 21, you're supposed to do this. Well, that doesn't apply to us. Because as African people, when we get the nurturing and the love and the cultivation that we need, we are able to soar. I'll give a great example that impacted my life tremendously. Is a sister friend of mine. She moved away. I'm here in Atlanta, and she moved to Denver. And so she came back to visit, and she brought her 4-month-old baby, who I hadn't seen since he was probably a few weeks old. And so when she came to visit, she came, we sat down on the couch, and I was just, just enamored with how strong of a warrior he was at 4 months. His name is Heru. And so I says, wow, he's just so amazing. And we just were talking, catching up. And she says, after about 20 minutes, she says, hold on a second. I need to take Heru to the bathroom. And so I'm looking at her and I'm just like, what do you mean? She's like, I need to take him to the bathroom. He's 4 months old. And so I'm just started kind of chuckling a little bit. I had to look on my face like, is she serious? So I followed her to the bathroom because she did. Literally, she got up, she walked to the bathroom, and she sat him on the toilet, and he went to the bathroom. And so me being a person that really prided myself on high expectations, right, which shows that sometimes we can be so indoctrinated and not even realize it, that I was just blown away. And I just said, what in the world would make you want to put him on the toilet and go to the bathroom? And she says, well, I was online and I was doing some research and studying, and I came across this thing called elimination communication. And so I kind of made a face, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like something that Yoruba's selling back to us, right? This has to be something indigenous amongst our people. And she says, well, I don't know, but it's really been working well. And I really cue into his different nuances and his communication. Even though he's not verbally communicating, I'm in tune with his spirit. I'm in tune with, the facial expressions that he makes. And we have a communication, an interactive communication in that way, where I'm able to recognize that that's what he's telling me. So I was like, wow, that is really amazing. So when she left that night, I spent probably about an hour and some change, almost 2 hours online, just researching this, this has to be something indigenous. And sure enough, I found a study in Uganda that talked about how African babies are potty trained out of the womb when they first come out. And then I began to say, wow, I started thinking in my own mind, had I ever seen an African child on their mother's back with a diaper on, being wrapped, right? And I said, I don't ever remember seeing anything like that. And so not even in my own mind and my own pictorial memory bank had I ever remembered anything of that sort. But yet, and the dots never connected for me with that until this experience. And so what it taught me was that, when we have low expectations for our children, and we're taking in what other people are telling us we need to be doing at certain spaces and stages in our children's lives, it's really taught me that, you know what? We don't have to wait for their ages to cultivate our children. We don't have to wait for someone else to tell us when our children are ready. We are fully equipped as parents to tune in to them, right? And this is for me, this has been the importance of COVID. It has been a reset, with all of the strife and everything that has come with it. It has been a reset for us to tune into the things that are most important, which is family, and really being able to sit with our children and be able to get to know who they are, to have dialogue, to have conversation around what's on their mind. It's not just about us shoving what our wishes, wants, and desires are on them, but listening and taking notice to the different nuances when they're feeling a certain way, discussing the things that maybe we need to heal about, or things that we need to clear the air with to create stronger bonds and relationships. So, the value in expecting the world for our children actually can reap them the world, the beauty of the essence of what our people have thrived on for all of these years. And some of the simple tools for that is just taking the time to bond with your children, reading our scholarly works, of our brothers and sisters that have put so much time in. I love Nana Amos Wilson. One of my favorite, I love Baba and Walimu Baruti. I love Nana John Henry Clark, Nana Frances Cress Welsing, gosh, wow, so many. Now I remember there's so many of so much material out here, as well as a community that is ready to sink deeper in so we can give our children the facts of who they are. Their foundation is their identity, of them knowing, you know, from where they came. And so they can be proud and they can understand, you know, the world that we live in is, you know, the thievery and everything that has happened, you know, being taken from our people. And the world that we live in is a direct reflection of like Rome all over again, right? And so how do we reclaim our righteous space on the planet? It starts with our babies. And so getting in tune and then looking at curriculum. You know, everyone says, you know, curriculum, if you're not an educator, a lot of times people get scared by that word. It's like, wow, it sounds like a big word. I don't have a PhD. I don't feel like I'm qualified. However, you know, we can take any subject matter that there is and looking at it through an African worldview through our eyes. And we can break it down and say, how does this affect African people? You know, we have to ask that question with the curriculums that we're creating. And just if you take a subject matter within itself, a lot of times within the Yurugu structure, everything is done in fragments. So you learn science at this time, you learn math at this time, you learn reading at this time, and everything is broken up into all these pieces, just like they do with nature, right? They have their medicines and they say, well, we'll take this out of the plant and we'll stick it over here and mix it up with this over here and expect for it to give the same result. But we know that once things are fragmented, then they can no longer work in synergy. So when we're educating and we're creating curriculum, we want to think about a whole curriculum. We want to think about that circle that we talked about earlier. And you can take any subject matter that you like, right? Any subject matter, and you can say, okay, what are the what is the discussion around it in terms of how it affects African people? What is the geographical, if we're talking about a location, right? Or a person, we say Malcolm X, we say Marcus Garvey. If we say, you know, let's look at a bigger context. Let's talk about what is their story? What is their journey? What is their purpose? Let's talk about where they were raised. And then we can get into geographical places where they were raised. What was that like? Let's talk about the mathematical equations that fit within that story, whether it's dealing with the geography, whether it's dealing with the numbers and all of the magnificent things and blacknificent things that Marcus Garvey was able to bring into fruition before the internet existed. So let's be clear, to be able to galvanize and bring all of our people together on one accord before all of the levels of media existed. So, you know, a lot of it is just being able to educate our children in a way that it is, once again, it's a living experience. We're incorporating the science into it. So we talk about the Black Cross nurses. What are some of the things that they studied? And then as we're talking about what they studied, now let's talk about, you know, some of the healing modalities that they use. So now we have a science and a healing mechanism in that one curriculum. And then we can talk about, you know, the ships, right? What does that look like? You know, what was the vision behind that? And so we can begin to stretch one topic into a fullness of something that reflects us and how we view it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from an African our story perspective. We can take anything that's out here and we can see, I'll give an example. I had someone donate a bunch of school supplies to the school, and one of the boxes was flashcards of all the US presidents. And so in the past, I would have thrown that away. And I decided to keep it because I said, no, this is important, because as they're hearing all of the accolades from a different cultural perspective about who these people were, I want them to understand, and let's break down who they really were to African people. You know, all of the enslavement of our African people, all of the derogatory conversation and talk around us that they had. I need them to understand from that perspective. It doesn't mean we have to erase it. It means they have to have a full in-depth understanding of what it is that they're taking in. And then I want to also dive a little bit into our children as entrepreneurs, teaching them about the economics of our community. I like to say passion-preneurs, because I feel like whatever it is they're doing, it should be their passion. It should be what lights their flame, their fire. And with that, I also like to say when our children are building business, I like to use the term empire. They're building empires. I think that just has such a more long-standing effect in a very royal way of looking at things and building infrastructure in our community. And so it goes beyond, when we talk about empires, it goes beyond just, the exchange of money or an idea or a creation, right? It goes into government, it goes into sustenance, it goes into family and maintenance, it goes into investments and all of these things that, that our children need to know about. So what better way to teach them than through their passion-preneur experiences as they're building business? They need to be utilizing those funds to maybe buy some property or maybe invest in some land, whatever that you feel is going to wrap their mind around a goal, even if it's a small goal of investing in something else, in another Black business, or investing even back in themselves and the education experience and what they're doing from that level. I want to encourage all of you to just step outside of the box, and go into that space of creativity. Apprenticeships. And I just think apprenticeships and internships are amazing. I was able to see the value of that with my own children. My daughter, when she was 12, she was a vegan, vegetarian, raw food chef as well. And that was her passion. And so I was able to see her take part in an internship at a raw food restaurant. And a lot of times, we have to venture out and we have to kind of convince some of our Black business owners because it's not something they always can wrap their mind around. However, it always turns out to be a beautiful experience because, number one, the children are learning what they would learn in a college. My daughter got so much knowledge and information and experience that she would have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for in any Yurugu university, right? And she was able to create her own business. She's catered for everyone at 12 and 13 years old, from, the local Congress people to some of the community events to Six Flags concert series. Everybody's doing all the vegan thing, right? So she was able to have those opportunities through internships, apprenticeships. So I want to encourage that with all of you. And we have to learn alongside our children, because I knew nothing about her journey, very little. And so we learned together, we learned as a family. Any passion-preneur endeavor should be a family collective. It should be where we are doing our libations together. We're doing our yoga and our spirituality that we practice that, if you tend to be more religious-based, start to pull out the spiritual tenets of things where we can get into our meditation. And I think, it will really help to revitalize us with all of the things that we're faced with right now. These are the things that present the greatest forms of resistance and protest with everything that's going on now, because it's long term. We're investing in our children. We're investing in our families and our collectivity. That's the true Ubuntu, Umoja. So I want to say that also, don't worry about, once you declare what you want to do not worry about the obstacles that are before you, because the obstacles are only there because you need more information. When you gain a community and you start to seek like minds, even if it's just one person that you can vibe with and you're on a similar frequency. I said the liberated minds frequency, you're ready to just make it happen. Do that. And the 2 of you or the 4 of you or the 8 of you, however many is in your group, you work together. Because a lot of times finances, people think about finances, so I have to work and I have to do this. But if we're collective, then one person can teach this and another person can teach that, and everybody can pull their strengths together. Then we have the opportunity to reach out to the community and find out who in the community we can go out and interview and connect with, that the children can you know, be able to bond with and know that they are loved beyond just their immediate circle. So, you know, there's so many things we can do when we put our minds together. Everything is a yes. Everything is a yes, 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 yes. I can do it. I can make this happen, because our whole future rides on our yes. That we will educate our own, that we will step into our true power, and that even if everything is not perfect, we know that it's better than over there. If you don't feel confident about, you know, taking this journey, then the lack of confidence is just due to lack of information. And here at Liberated Minds, we have a host of resources, and we're family. We are family, y'all. We get together as family. You know, when the expo comes every year, every July, you know, it's a magical experience where families are coming together from all over the world that are serious about educating our children. And, you know, we pull the resources together. It's been coined the African-centered family reunion. African-centered education family reunion is what it's been coined, and it really does feel like that. So here at Liberated Minds, you know, it is it's my love, and it is, you know, definitely my driven vision of, you know, making sure that we provide the resources, like I said, the training, the African-centered materials and resources from a curriculum standpoint, and just from a family standpoint, and then the community that we're building here. So I can go on for a long time, and but I want to stop right there for a minute and just see where we are.
That is so beautiful, my sister. I could just resonate with everything you were saying. Oh my gosh, we got to talk. And I've been seeing you in social media with your homeschooling conferences. I was thinking, yes, this is on it.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, you know, I was a little bit hurt about having to go online with the COVID, but I will say it literally brought me to tears. It brought a whole lot of us to tears, because we were able to have, you know, families from 12 different countries, which we never had. We've always had a few countries come for the expo in person.
Yeah.
But having the magic of that and the essence of that, and, you know, people who had always wanted to come, and just the importance of connecting the diaspora. It's so critical. It's so critical. So I'm just honored to be here once again. I know I keep saying that, but it just means so much to me to see the work that you all are doing, and how it intersects. And, you know, the energy, we need to know that the energy is there. So when I feel this, when I'm on here and I'm just like, wow, you know, the energy it's just resonating in frequency. And that just helps us to be stronger, as we know there's so many obstacles that we face.
Definitely, definitely. It's my sister. It's an honor to have you and presenting to our people, you know, internationally, especially in the UK, because we're tuned in, and it's just an honor. You said so much, and especially the thing when you talk about empire. And it's funny because in our Saturday school, it's called the Alkebu-Lan Academy of Excellence.
Yes.
The classes are called empires of learning.
Wow, I did not know that. Yeah.
So the youngest group is called Bokongo Empire. Then it's Monomatapa, and Ghana, and Kemet. You know, so
I love it. Because see, it gives a whole nother mindset, right? Totally. It creates a certain mindset, and we have to take our highest levels of how we need to be thinking. We got to function, even if we're not there yet. It's all right, because if we don't expand the vision, then we can never get there. So,
every child that joins, we do a little ceremony, which we're crowning them as princes or princesses. Wow. So now we're prince whoever or princess whoever. So when you're here, royalty. So we have to put in our children's mind that you are royal. You come from royal stock. You know, and see the transformation in the children within. I'm telling you, like 3 months, parents are coming to us. My child's they had blue eyes, throwing himself down the stairs.
It's getting younger and younger. It's so true. It's literally within, by the time they're 1 and 2 years old, they're already gravitating towards the European culture.
This is it. And so we spend a lot of time, and I don't think there was a stage when before we had the Saturday school has been going for 13 years, but we were doing a lot of work prior to that within the organization with our children, which we call our program. And when we decided that we wanted to bring it to the wider community years ago, but it's all getting a building was always a problem and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
We then procured our own building, so that solved that problem. But the one of the challenges that we found that in and you can tell me, I don't know if you have run a Saturday school, you've been part of a community group or something like that, which meets every week or what have you. But many people wanted English, math, science. And when we were teaching our children, we just taught them African history and, and political, so we're Black nationalists, freedom fighters, we're African socialists. So that's what we just taught them. We just taught them everything that's been happening in the world, everything that's happening now, and understanding and dissecting it and so forth. But within that, you're getting the English, you're getting the math, you're getting the science.
Right.
And it's very difficult to communicate that to our people. And they say, so we had to kind of adjust our program. So even though in the language, all the material is from English, from African authors and things like that. But it's a challenge. And have you been part of any collective where you're meeting on a regular basis with your children?
Yes, we had up until last year, we had a Roots to Fruits homeschool and cultural collective, which was a collective of 50 families run out of the African History Museum here in Atlanta. And we had a lot of wins, a lot of great successes. And I think sometimes the challenge just becomes because parents are so busy, really just, getting them on board fully. And I know I've had experience, not necessarily in that collective, but years ago, I've been running my own collective and institute, one or the other, since 1996. And so in the beginning, what I would get was parents who would come and say, I want my children to learn more about that. I want them to be more like that. But they weren't on that same path and journey. And so that's so critical that we have to be on this journey together, because it creates more of a psychosis when we're living one way and we're expecting something from them. It doesn't make any sense, So what we want for them, we also need to want for ourselves, and it needs to be integrated. It's an experience together, because it causes a lot of, it's just a lot of disharmony in the connection. And we had a lot of amazing, beautiful families that were really involved. We offered everything from yoga. We started every day with yoga, and we had gardening. They learned about the gemstones and the crystals and made their own copper jewelry. They had African dance, African drumming. They had a host of activities in addition to their, academic subject, I guess you would say. And that really brought a well-roundedness. They also had bookshop where they were building, and they spent a lot of time outside. I know my assistant director at the time, Mama Major, who's amazing. She is now our operations director at Liberating Mind. So big up to her. I want to send a shout out. But I remember she had the children eating straight from the garden. They were just pulling leaves, and the parents could not believe it. It's like, how are you getting them to eat, these vegetables? And we're plant-based school. Sometimes we run into challenges with children bringing ham sandwiches, sneaking them in their lunch. And I was just like, no. So, but it's just the reinforcement. And part of it is the education. So we have to educate the parents along the way. And I'm at a point now that if the parents don't want to participate in that way, then to me, it's just not a fit, because it doesn't really make sense to educate the children and the parents are not interested in being involved in that.
Yeah. I think that, again, that you're saying all that, I'm thinking, wow, I can see people through the same experience. Parents like Saturday school, they put them there. I want them to know what I didn't know. but you are not reinforcing that at home. So we're saying this and all these pledges and chants and what have you, and they go have a total different lifestyle. And I know I accept that these are the challenges that we face ourselves.
It is.
After 500 years under the European and 1400 years under the Arab, we've got a lot of work to do.
That's right. That's right.
It comes a point when you have to say, unless a parent is prepared to either go on a program or organize their own program for their learning, it doesn't even make sense. It's frustrating it's exhausting.
It's very, because we're giving our heart and soul all day, and that goes into the evening and the night. We take that to sleep with us. We wake up with it, right? It's just a lifestyle, it's that liberation lifestyle. It's constant. You don't turn it off and turn it on. You're working with it within your own family structure. You're extending yourself to others. Yeah. And our energy deserves to be preserved. It really does. And I used to be a time where I was like, well, everybody deserves to learn. And I still do agree that they do. However, I know that my energy it only can go so far, in a 24-hour period. And I want to be working with those families who they don't have to be there, because all of us are, right? We're all unfolding and blossoming. Yeah. But they have to have the will and the want to walk together on that same journey. That's all I need. If I have that, then we're good.
That's so beautiful. And when you were just sharing about was it a daytime school, more than one a day a week or 5 days a week?
We were 5 days a week. 5 days a week. And it was a full day. So we started at 8 and we finished at 5.
Wow.
So it was a full day. Yeah.
So that then you got no time to be indoctrinated otherwise. The time they get
home. So, Mama Kai, I just wanted to say that for those of brothers and sisters who are as inspired and drawn into this conversation as I am, the link is in the chat. So if you want to come and interact with Queen Taese, you know what I'm saying, and have her smile at you personally, feel free to click the link, Kings and Queens, and join the conversation and ask a question, interact, seek advice. Yeah, this is the space for it. Queen Taese, my big brother Uncle Ku, his children went to your institution.
Yes, for a long time.
Yeah. And so I have some personal experience with this, with the conversations that they came home with. Yeah, after school when I was staying with him in Atlanta, and his daughter in particular, because she was very inspired by the agriculture. And so, she come home and say, "Oh, I learned about a new herb today," or you know what I'm saying? And they would discuss how she's going to incorporate it into a family meal and all them stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was the whole process, but from growing to cooking.
That's right. Making that connection. We look at it, we take it for granted, right? But really, there's a lot of misconnections with that, with food, and actually touching, growing, feeling, watching how it grows, studying the natures of it, and. Yeah, it gets like that sometimes. I had one of my parents say he took a cab ride home, and he said that. So the cab driver said to her, "So what did you learn today?" And she's 7, and she says, "Oh, I learned about the Berlin Conference and how they, broke up Africa." And he's like, and he was from the continent, so his mouth just dropped open, and he was like, "What?" He looked at the father and was like, "I don't understand." He was like, "Yeah, that's the type of stuff." Like they get the real. They get the real. And we give it to them at a space where, we break it down in a way that's simplistic, and depending on the ages, because we had from ages 3 all the way up to 17. So we had different groups, and we always have a multi-age, classroom with like three different groups. And so they were all multi-age groups. And then there were things that we did all together, like the yoga we did together, the gardening we did together. A lot of the things that we felt it was important that the older children also interact with the younger children, which is something that, public school doesn't do as well. They keep everybody separate. We also have the young brothers who learn certain things, and the young sisters who also learn certain things, because there are different roles and responsibilities, and everything should not be just grouped together,
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, go ahead, Mama. No, I was gonna the question is actually gone out of my head now. I'll come back to it. Don't worry. But we got somebody in the back who wants to come through. So I'll bring them through now. Greetings, my sister. I am African too.
Peace and blessings.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yes. You look amazing. You look amazing in that red over there.
Aww. Thank you. You know what? I love this because this is truly the African diaspora. I'm in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands right now. So, and I'm sitting here cooking falafels while listening to this conversation. So, and my
you had to
daughter,
say that I haven't had my lunch yet. I've been going all day. Now I'm over here like amazing in that bed over here.
so I'm just thankful to be.
Sorry, NRB, please mute whatever your device you're watching the playback from. Yeah, because you're on the panel now, and I'll bring you back through once our sister has concluded her interaction. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just really thankful to be here. I'm gonna show you guys a view really quick. But you know, the reality is we have to embrace who we are as the African diaspora, and we have to really be unapologetic about it. I'm so thankful that I attended the Liberated Minds homeschool conference.
It's so great to have you. So great to have you there too.
Yeah, it was really great because it allowed me to be able to know that there's a bigger community, and that it's not just me who has these values. It's not just me who knows that we need to reconnect to our African culture and our African roots. So I think it is very important. This is just the background.
Wow. I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I have to show you guys.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
That's
And
so refreshing. So refreshing.
It is. And you know, the reality is there's so many African brothers and sisters that came to the Caribbean through the transatlantic slave trade. And that's a lot of what, you know, I do at I Am African too. It's just about us reconnecting, and making those connections and solidifying those connections throughout the diaspora. So I'm just thankful to be a part of this and continue the great work, you all.
Thank you so much. And likewise, you know already, anything you need, we're here. Anytime. And you've been such a support and just encouraging and, you know, expanding the mind. And sometimes that's just what we need. You know, knowing that, like you said, that there is, that our family is so wide and far, you know, it kind of helps to rest the heart and the soul and the spirit that everything is okay.
Indeed. Take care.
Thank you so much, Madasi.
Thank you, my sister. I appreciate that energy right there. And I'm reminded, Kings and Queens, that our guest for our radio show next Sabbath on Africa Suites of Alkebu-Lan is Sister Chenzira Kaina, who is also in the Virgin Islands, but not St. Thomas and St. Croix. You know what I'm saying? She joined us briefly yesterday, you know what I'm saying? And she's going to be joining us next week as well. So we've had a little bit of that St. Croix sunshine twice.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And Jano, we need it right now.
I know.
The sun has deserted us. We've had a pretty good summer, you know, I can't lie.
Yeah.
It's been all right, but right now, you know, we could do with it still, you know what I mean? So thanks for that energy.
Oh, yes.
Mama Kai, did you want to continue?
Yes, I just want to ask Mama that you speak about training, which is very important because you highlighted that when you started this journey of homeschooling, there wasn't a lot of resources, and I think that will probably go for many people in my age group that started, and a lot of people that were homeschooling really because they were kicked out of school. It wasn't even a choice. It was like I got no other choice, you know. How important is training, and who do you target?
What was the last thing you said? How important is training in what?
Who's your target market? Is it teachers already in the system, or is it parents? Okay,
so our target market is really those who are serious-minded about educating their children and being in the driver's seat. Homeschoolers tend to be at the cusp of that because they have made an intentional choice to pull their children out of the public school system. So they tend to lead the ranks in that. But then we also have those parents who may not be at that place or may not have the intention of homeschooling, but they do, you know, we all love our babies and they do want their children to have more culture and to get a better understanding of how to navigate through this world. And then we also have educators as well who are looking to, some public school system who are looking to try to liberate the minds of the children who are there, to give them a little spark of light and sunshine and energy, and know that they are loved, you know, through the information. And I experienced that working with a particular program where I would come into the public school system and work with the children. And I witnessed for myself that just giving them their culture and inspiring them from a different perspective, it does wonders. I mean, they wrote me up every week, but it was okay because the children were doing great. And, you know, they wouldn't let the program go because they said, wow, she's bringing the stats and the numbers. You know, at the same time, you know, when I first walked into that classroom, and this was junior high, I was a little bit intimidated because it was in the South Bronx, and I was like, okay, when am I going to walk into, right? And I walked in there. In the whole first class, we just talked about culture because the first thing they wanted to know was, why do you have a head wrap on? What is that about? And so that opened up a whole world of conversation. And by the time we were done, they were feeling so royal, and they were asking so many questions about, you know, their identity and who they are and the greatness of African people. And was this true? Was that true? And they didn't know this and they didn't know that. And so from that one day, it set a tone for the level of Black excellence and African excellence that I was looking for. And they stayed right there. You know, the bar was raised, and they met every expectation without any type of resistance. So sometimes it's just, you know, for our educators doing the same thing, giving our children what they can within the structure that exists, because once something is founded, I mean, it's the core of it is not going anywhere. But we do need our African teachers that are there, you know, to be able to give that spark and that light to those who may never receive it. And then there's also educators that we service outside of that type of situation. So educators in some of our Black-owned, African-owned institutions and schools, educators that are running their own homeschools. So we just, if you're serious about it, we got it. You know what I mean? And that's really the only prerequisite. I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything. My whole thing is everybody's at a different leg of the journey. Some people are just thinking about it. Some people haven't thought about it yet. Some people have been, you know, doing it for a few years. But my thing is, regardless of where we are, create your plan of action, not just your plan. A lot of times people say, we've got a plan. No, plan is just on paper. A plan of action, what are the steps that you're going to take that you can have accountability for? Sometimes you have to get an accountability partner. I have one now. With all the things I'm doing, I have an accountability sister that's like, sis, did you do this? Because you were supposed to check up on that. You were supposed to make sure that you said you wanted to implement more of this, so you're supposed to be on top of it. We have to have those accountability partners, so that way our plan of action can begin to move forward. No matter how slow, no matter how fast, it is in motion.
I give thanks for that. And I'll come back to you. We've got someone with us. I'm not sure. I'll come back to you on, sorry, brother.
Sabello, his name is. Brother Sabello.
Oh, Brother Sabello. Okay, go ahead.
How
hey,
are
greetings,
you?
Sister Kai. How you doing? Good, thanks, Queen Taese. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate your energy being in the space.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Look, I'm really encouraged by what you have to say, more particularly that being on the continent, one of the things that we're also realizing or have realized and have made whatever little efforts we can is the fact that the education in Africa is basically not the same thing as African education. And I love the way that you are basically breaking it down and giving it the context, because you find that most of our educators are still so caught up in a system that has basically taught us to basically go the route of miseducation and diseducation, and completely rebelled against that which speaks to the essence of our being as African people.
Yes.
And what I'll be interested to basically see us being able to do going forward is to begin to structure a way where we can develop some element of universal African education. I love the theme, education for liberation, because education must serve a purpose. Because at the moment, what we have is that the purpose of this particular education that we have is basically for our repression. So basically, I love the topic because it's taking us from an education for repression to education for liberation. But if we basically can find a way along the way of synchronizing our efforts and develop some sort of universalized curriculum, which will take us forward as African people. That would be really great. We've been having this conversation here as well. Yeah, where we're looking at basically setting up teacher training.
Yes, it's important. And
I
right
beg your
now,
pardon?
this is where we are right now, is we have to begin to connect about the diaspora. One of the things that I talked about, I did a presentation almost for about 4,000 Africans who speak French. I don't speak French, but it was translated. And I found that the hunger and the thirst that we have for educating our own is growing exponentially. And so one of the things that I said that I'm doing some research on now, and part of it is you play a part in that, is that I want to set up Liberated Minds satellite embassies throughout the diaspora, where we can begin to funnel in training and resources. For the first time, we're having our magazine translated in other languages, right? Our Liberated Minds magazine. And we're working on getting different, some of our curriculum materials also translated, because sometimes the language is the barrier, and sometimes it's just the distance that's the barrier. But right now, with the internet and everything that we have the capability with those who want to get involved. So I invite yourself also to, let's correspond, because wherever we are, there's a different, it's a different pulse of different areas, right? It's like a different vibration. Even though we're on one frequency, we know it's a universal mind. However, there's things that I don't know about where you are, and there's things you don't know about where I am. And so if we work collectively and we begin to, I say start small, because it's like the Adinkra Henny, right? The Adinkra symbol. You have that middle circle, and that middle circle represents your core. That's where we have to start small, where we can create relationships where we know, love, and trust, right? And then we can expand out to the next layer, to our extended family, then to the community. And so when we start with that core, I find that that's most important with and most near and dear to my heart too, in terms of going into different places. It's finding, who are those core people that I can bond with and build relationships with, that I can begin to develop a level of trust, and knowing how we function and work collaboratively, and knowing that there's a sincerity and passion there for what this mission is. So I want to invite anyone who's listening. I'm going to give my email address, if I may.
Yes, you may. You can say out loud, and then I'm sure Shakara will put it in the chat. So
okay. Beautiful, Madasi. So it's Liberated Minds, and that's Minds with an S, Liberated Minds Education. I'll spell it, because I know some people may speak different language, so I'm going to spell it out. It's LIBERATED, Minds, MINDS, Education spelled out, EDUCATION, Liberated Minds Education at yahoo.com. And then I'll feel free to visit any of our websites. We have the Liberated Minds Institute.com. We also have the Liberated Minds Expo.com. We're coming up on our 10th anniversary, so y'all have to be a part of it. And then I have my personal site also, which is Queen Taese, QUEENTAESE.com as well. And I do everything from just, you know, it's about getting our mind right. You know, we get our minds right and our spirituality right, our bodies will follow. So I work with families, I work with schools, you know, do staff development, I do curriculum development, I do consultations, and I don't just talk about academics. So I'm not one of those. I pull the whole together. We talk about family, we talk about, because everything is integrated. And I also do, you know, I travel and I speak. We have a lot of information around connecting our people throughout the diaspora. So for instance, we have an app that has been developed, it's been submitted, where people can go on and find out where in the world, like really like where in the world is an African Center program, like in the UK, or where in the world can we go in Atlanta or California, or, you know, in the Congo or in France, where can I find this information? So if you go to the Liberating Minds Institute site and you go on there, there is a link where you can put your information for your resources, and everything from tutoring to African Center schools, to homeschools, to homeschool groups, to camps, you know, things that are culturally relevant for us by us. And I do say culturally relevant African Center because that is important. That is where our niche lies. You know, I like to, you know, dive into some of the things that we're not talking about, that we're not doing, and let's look at the nuts and bolts and the glue that help to really make this machine go. So you can sign up right there. The link will say join our directory, and you can put your works, your great works that you do. If you have an organization, whatever, based on the services that you provide for our African people, you can list everything right there and people will be able to find you. And I think that was really important because we had so many people calling and just asking for resources in their area. And now that we know, of course, with COVID, there's a lot more things that are online and virtual. So our resources should be even greater. So the work that you're doing at Alkebu-Lan, you know what I mean? That needs to be up there so people can know. And, you know, can we go on and find out how do we listen in? How do we take some of the classes? What are the different options? So we're no longer limited to just our, you know, our radius of where we live. We have this international, this global, this diasporic radius, you know, that expands way beyond. So that is one of the things that we're happy to be providing. We're just waiting on the final approval from the Apple. We got the approval from the Android, so people can just go on their phone and look for that information. We also have a membership that we're launching to be able to connect with who you want our brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora to be a part of that. And that's another way that we can connect on a continuum. And so this is our goal, like to be able to provide things that can continuously keep us connected.
Yeah, I'll give thanks for Tatenda, my sister. I know you've put so much information. It's so much, you know, it's absolutely beautiful. And Brother Tabella, I just also want to say Tatenda to you for coming. We met you in Barbados at the African Descendants Conference against racism and xenophobia.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And Brother Tabella got the biggest standing ovation when he spoke. You know, so it's just nice.
Well, please reach out. Please reach out. I'd love to have more of a chat, you know, at another time where we can dive a little further into the work.
Can I ask a question for you, Makai?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you. Now it's good to reconnect. Thank you very much.
Don't worry.
Madasi. Yeah, so in that sense now, you spoke about curriculum development, Queen Taese.
Yes.
And how this can be a daunting task yet for a lot of people. And it's something that I'm trying to engage in at the moment as well. Yeah. In terms of this idea of developing not uniformity, but unity. And understanding around the curriculum, yeah. Now, I don't know if you've ever read Kwame Ajayi-Akoto's book, Nation Building Theory and Practice.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Okay. So, I want to show.
I love that book.
It's as far as African Center education goes, it's like the Bible for me.
It is. It really is.
It's that brilliant. But he also has a in fact I may try and bring it up actually just so people can see the layout of his his curriculum. Yeah. So I wanted to say a bit more about the curriculum, your curriculum design and development, just for people that are on that level that want to just an insight into that kind of thing. And while they're doing that, I'll bring up one.
Absolutely. So when it comes to curriculum, we want to just start out with, what is the goal? What is it? What is the message that you want to transfer to your children? So it's not just the information. The message and the information could be two different things. I want to make that clear. Sometimes the information can deliver multiple messages. And so we want to make sure that we're asking ourselves, whatever curriculum that we are creating or utilizing, we want to make sure that we're asking ourselves, how are we looking at this through our African-centered eyes, and how does it affect African people? I like Nana Marimba always says, is it good for African people, right? To ask that question. And so when we can answer that before we give the children, before we administer the lesson or whatever is going to happen, we also want to make sure that we're looking at, I always keep my notebook and I jot things down, because what's important is that as you're opening up one idea, generally the children will ask the most amazing questions. And those questions sometimes they become lessons of their own. Like I talked about with Marcus Garvey. So we're talking about the Black Cross nurses, right? Now we're talking about organization structure. Now we start talking about the Red Cross and how they didn't serve African people. Because see, when we see the Red Cross, everybody wants to say donate to the Red Cross, and this generation, that's all they know, but they don't know that they didn't service Black people at one time. So we don't want to patronize them. And so we want to give the value. That helps to give more value to the work that Baba Marcus has done, right? That gives more value, because it says that, not only did we take it upon ourselves to create our own, but we realize that everything doesn't have to be reactionary. Because you won't let us do this, then we'll do this. We just have to know that we have to build continuously for ourselves, what is of us that is our own, because we have already been shown for all of these years. So with the curriculum, you want to make sure that you're not just looking at curriculum in a book, but you're also pulling out, maybe videos you can watch, art projects, that you can create. And we got the internet, so you can look at different ideas and you can modify it and say, okay, well, are we going to do a mural of Baba Marcus? Are we going to do, some artwork, some charcoal drawings? Are we going to do a collage that represents all the things that were of him and what he stood for? Because see, the messages are much bigger than what any textbook could give us alone. Because the embodiment, we don't want them to just memorize. We want them to embody it. And so that comes through multiple experiences, because children learn differently, have different learning styles. Some children are more kinesthetic, right? They learn through the hands-on. Some are more auditory. But imagine if we're giving these lessons to them in all different ways, then it's sinking into their DNA. It's not just something they're going to forget tomorrow. And it's things that you can continuously have dialogue around. You can think of field trips that you can go to. You can think of, it's infinite. You can think of places that you can travel, around the world. If you have that option for yourself. What are some places during your vacation? Maybe you go visit some of the sites where Marcus Garvey was. Maybe you visit some, it's just infinite. So I think when we think in terms of multi-layered, multi-dimensional activities around one subject matter, and keeping that question, how does it affect African people? Is it good for African people? And always making sure we're coming from that lens.
Yes, sister. Yes, sister. I have a follow-up question where that is concerned. One of the things that he emphasizes in the book is the fact that the curriculum design must be linked to the real work, African liberation work that is taking place in the community. And this is important. It can be very difficult because sometimes, well, let's put it this way. When we actually interviewed Mama Marimba Ani some years ago, when we were doing a tribute to Bobby E. Wright. And one of the things that she said was that Bobby E. Wright said that our African-centered schools will be sufficient for a period of time, but eventually they're going to need to be backed up by institutions in the community that can the graduates of these institutions, right? So I want to know if you found that to be a challenge, linking your educational process with real community work and institutions, and how have you tried to negotiate that reality? Because definitely over here we don't have enough institutions or African-centered institutions to cater for all of them that we want to educate, if that makes sense, and we want to bring them through. So we do our best, you know what I'm saying? We take them to this market, that black market, or you know what I'm saying, that kind of thing. So what would you say are the challenges there, and where do we need to go or develop from there?
I feel, the challenges first are just us adjusting to the
Sorry,
fact
sister, your mic sounds funny now. I'm not sure what's happened. Yeah.
Does it? I don't know.
It sounds very faint and.
Is that better?
No, not really. Something's happened.
Do you want to remove the picture? I don't know if it's got anything to do with it.
Nah, I doubt it. But yeah, it wouldn't be that.
Does that sound any better?
Not really.
No.
I'm not sure. It's something just gone.
Should she cut out and come back
Should
again?
I go out and come back in?
You're good now.
I'm good? Okay. Okay. So I think, it starts with a repositioning of our thoughts in terms of, I feel like there's enough institutions out here that can support our work, but I feel like that needs to be almost like a whole nother department or task that we can give a group of people who are passionate. And we look at all these other positions we have to fill and make sure we have, but a big part of that is bringing in the finances, that helps to create the stability, where we know a lot of times with the income of parents, it fluctuates, it goes up and down. Sometimes they can pay, sometimes they can't. It's just the nature of what it is, right? So I think it is, if we redefine what success really is, not just for us, but for the businesses and the institutions and the community that want to support. Sometimes we have to redefine it and put it in a different context. And it's not so much of a this beautiful butterfly flying right outside the window, yellow butterfly, excuse me. But just put it in a totally different context, in a sense that is, from our perspective, because the education that our children receive should empower them to solve the problems of our community. And so when we pose this information in the right packaging, in the right way, for those who are already loving the work that we're doing, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. I know there's a lot of schools that now have funds too, where people can donate a recurring amount of money. So like $10 a month, every month it'll come out, or $50 a month. But I think there needs to be some real intentional work around creating, because that's the infrastructure that we lack, right? So it's because it's, yes, truly an infrastructure that needs to happen, then we need to give it that individualized attention on what are the things that are going to be the sustenance and the maintenance of us being able to be here for many, many years to come. And then also brings more resources to our children, more opportunities, more experiences, that make their education a whole lot richer, So, yeah. So also there was a second part of the question. What was the other part of the question that you asked?
I was going to say, it was more based upon where we are at now. How have you tried to negotiate it from the position that you're in at the moment? That element of, being in the community, a part of the community, and doing work in the community.
Yeah, I mean, why we unapologetically African, so it's like, ain't no negotiating, either you with it or you're not. And I think right now is a great time to really begin to tap into the hearts and minds of those who weren't even looking this way. You know what I mean? That now they're like, okay, we got a lot of brothers and sisters out here that where we pitched to them a year or two ago, it would have fell on deaf ears, where now they feel there's there's a little stirring in the heart of everything that's been happening. So this is just a great time, I feel, to just be straight up with what we're doing. The work that we're doing, it speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. So, and if you look at the disparity between those who have knowledge of self and those who don't, I mean, it's just so evident. So, just going for those who believe in what you're doing, who know the mission and the purpose behind it. And really, we have to create some intention, direct intention around that.
Thank you,
Give thanks. Thank you, my sister. I mean, I was, as you were speaking, I was thinking about we up until recently had a homeschool collective for children daytime.
Yes.
So we 9 till, not as long as yours, 9 till 3:10. That was enough.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. How long? So you just started it for this school
No,
year?
well, that was going for 5 years. We started with just
beautiful.
Under the age of 12, and then just different things happened, and then we decided, okay, let's focus on the older children, because there was a number of things for children generally in the community for younger children. So let's focus on the older. That had its challenges, but it was really beautiful because those children, most of them already been through the system. So they come into you to undo everything slowly.
Yes.
One prince coming,
mighty task. Yes.
One young prince, he came and he said, after about 3 days, he goes, I can't understand what you're actually doing. Why we having libation? He didn't understand this libation thing.
Yes.
Mornings, and it's going to horticulture, like things that you're talking about. We used to take the children to horticulture.
Yes.
I don't want to do that. I want to be a footballer. And it just couldn't get his head around it. But
but
I mean,
you know what I say? It still speaks to their spirit, even if they don't realize it. Sometimes you can be healed in a certain environment with certain information and certain love that you're surrounded with, and you never know how it touches your life until you hit a point in your life where it's relevant. And then you begin to tap into that of what you already connected with. See, that's the connecting of the dots. We don't get to choose what that looks like, unfortunately. We don't get to choose. Sometimes we see certain youth and we're like, wow, they know they have this foundation, but they're going here and there and everything is just looking crazy. But a lot of times there's a point that where the dots connect for them. And they're so grateful to have had this information and knowledge that they can now pull out and utilize to now embark on the journey. And it may be 20 years later, but yet the seeds have been planted.
That's right. And usually when they've got children, it usually the importance of what you've been teaching them all makes sense.
Yes. And I'm sure, with the collective, like I always say, teamwork makes the red, black, and green work. I'm working on a t-shirt. Teamwork makes the red, black,
hey,
and
my
green
sister, I'm teething that one, that one I have to use that one. That's a serious teamwork, let the red, black, and green work. Yeah, man. Yeah, that is my new slogan for the rest of my life. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So
certainly for the next year anyway. Definitely. My sister, a lot of our homeschoolers are single parents, mothers.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's the same, and probably it's the same in the US as well.
It is. Yes.
And a lot of mothers that sometimes I want to homeschool, but I'm the only source of income. If I homeschool, everything's going to collapse. What would you say to those mothers?
What I say is that there are, most people who think about homeschooling, they think about it from a one-way standpoint. Because, initially when people talked about homeschooling, it was you having to quit your job, stay at home with your child. That is not the case. And y'all know African people, we the most creative people. We have created all kinds of scenarios from homeschool groups, co-ops, where, you can go to work and, you're contributing in a different way, where your child is here, where, if your schedule is, you work nights or you work half a day, maybe you come in at 3 and you do, you give your contribution to the collective. There's so many ways for it to be done. You also have different hybrid programs where they're online and take some courses online. And then, there's homeschool settings where the children can go there full time. And there's things that we are a bartering people. Let me tell you, we got to utilize more than, we got to stop getting that money is an obstacle all the time. No, because it's just start with the what you desire and step into it. Step into it. We can't be any worse off than where we are now. Right now. So just move into it. Like, how could it, what's the worst case scenario? Ask yourself that. What is the worst case scenario that could possibly happen? And we'll realize that the worst case scenario material still looks better than this looks. You know what I mean? So and we have to be able to reach out to others, because if we have the desire to do something, we won't give 50 million reasons why we can't. Let me just start with that, because I get people call me and they'll say, you know, I want to homeschool, and then they rattle off 50 reasons why they can't do it. I said, do you really want to homeschool? Because if you want to homeschool, you'll be speaking to the reasons why you want to homeschool. And then, you know, everything else is the backdrop. But instead, we put the obstacles out front, and it will remain right there, your barrier, your blockage between you and where you want to go. So we have to speak life. And we're talking about our children, you know, living a life of liberation. We have to speak life. We have to start with that example with ourselves. And we will see the universe always opens up. Divine spirit is always there. Our ancestors are always our entourage. They are there. We have what we need. And so, you know, it'd be something as simple as soon as you declare it, you know, you in line somewhere, and the person next to you is talking to somebody else about homeschooling, how they want to start a group, and they're 2 blocks from you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I found someone. And, you know, it just starts with removing those obstacles of the spoken word. When you think it, then you have to begin to speak it in reality. Speak it. Speak what we want to see. When we do our libations, right? When we call out our ancestors, when we shout out the things that are most important to us, we say, yes, Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
We get that into existence. It's real. You know what I mean? It's not fantasy. This is real. And so when we put that out, just like when we driving down all these streets and we go into Columbus Avenue and we say in the days of the week and the months of the year, we're venerating their ancestors every time we speak those words. So we got extra work to do. We got extra work to do to speak words of life, to speak fruits, to speak the things that we want to see come into abundance, into fruition. And so single mother, married mother, whatever, I don't care who it is. If you want it, it's yours. You understand? It's ours. We got to just take it. And you have to take some readjusting, it's rewiring of the mind, because we get comfortable being uncomfortable. And we don't even realize that we're uncomfortable. We just like, hey, this is the way it is. I feel great. And you feel like that, but you think you feel great because you've psyched yourself into thinking that. So that's the importance of putting yourself around the community. If you're not sure how to do it, go join a homeschool community.
That's right.
You don't have to start today. Go join a community so you can begin to soak up that energy, begin to get in environments that encourage you around where you want to go, and stop letting that be the barrier.
Thank you,
my sister. What would you? Sorry, go sure.
I have a question as well, but we have somebody joining us. So yeah, sure. Okay.
Yes, let him go ahead. Let him go ahead.
All right, Sister Keisha.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, my sister. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, greetings, Keisha.
It's Keisha. Thank you.
Okay, Keisha, that's beautiful.
I apologize, Keisha.
No problem. So I have begun I'm actually in the Bronx, and I'm starting my homeschooling community right now.
Yes.
I'm also the breadwinner for our family. It makes it a little easier now with COVID because I am working from home.
Okay.
But I am a professional. I have to leave the home. Post-COVID, I'll have to leave the home often. And one of the questions I'm getting is, how are we going to make this work? One, because as African Americans in this system of schooling and living, we are more likely to be penalized in the system by CPS during our homeschooling. I'm also a family law attorney. So educational neglect comes up more for us than it does for white people. It comes up more in the Bronx and in Brooklyn than it does for white people, even of the same economic and social and educational backgrounds. And these are real serious issues that we have to, you can't just say plug into a community. I think that's a very comfortable thing to say when you've been in a community for over a decade. But for those of us who are just venturing out, it is a very scary thing because we know it takes very little for CPS to come into our homes, put mandates on our lives, and then an assessment about, for instance, we had this today, we had a conference today, and I know several of the attorneys in my office, white, who smoke marijuana. This family is a Black family, and somehow the CPS got involved in their home, and the father admitted that he smoked marijuana. So then they tricked the parents into getting tested. They tricked the mother. The mother acquiesced. She was found to have THC in her system. The father refused, and so they brought Article 10 action against them, which is an action for neglect. There was absolutely no neglect found of the children. The children were well cared for. The children had medical issues. They found them to be incredibly active parents, going to conferences, learning, participating in the community of their child's illness, on and on and on and on. There was absolutely no neglect. At the hearing, because the father insisted to go to trial, at the hearing, the judge wrote, "I have absolutely found no neglect as required by the statute. However, the second prong of the statute says, because the person used drugs, I must issue a finding of neglect and abuse upon the father." So those are the things that, and I'm telling you, I know people with the school board, and this doesn't happen to them. So we have to really just say, we can't say simply find your support systems. It's more than that. It's also make sure that you have counsel. Make sure that you have an attorney on your team that's going to do the research. You have to.
Well, I'm in total agreement. And the support system does include your counsel. You know, your support system is those who, you know, when you have a group of people, there's different specializations, and certain people are stronger in other areas. But in terms of CPS, you know, CPS is coming into homes, whether you're in public school or whether you're homeschool or you're in private school. They're targeting Black families more, period.
Yes.
So the thing is, we can't move in fear. We just have to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that we're doing the best we can with what we have. Because the bottom line is, so the solution to that would be to leave your child in an environment that you know is detrimental, in fear of something occurring when it happens every single day. I see it in public school. I see it in homeschooling. It is about, you know, being as thorough as we can be as Africans, but we always know that there's always that opposing energy and that opposing force. So yes, if there are certain attorneys that you know of that deal specifically with homeschooling, please share it with us. We have a few that are on our team here in Atlanta that we can refer out, you know, that are in our corner, and we work collaboratively with them, and they support the organization. But that cannot be groups in the chat so that, and what is going to liberate our children.
Can we put those groups in the chat so that people see them? Because I think that's germane to finding your group. I think finding a group, knowing what groups exist and are authentic groups, I think that's really important. So if we can put that in the chat, that people, what groups they can join in Atlanta and in New York and wherever else.
That is, earlier I had spoke about the directory that we're building. And so that if you go to liberatedmindsinstitute.com, there is a spot for joining the directory. So what I would say is, if you know, with the resources, we all plug in and share the resources that we have. And, you know, one of our biggest goals is to really be a compiler of that information where we are. And that was the reason why we created it. We have all types of scenarios of what our children are going through. Some children have been abused. Some children have been, you know, emotionally, physically, sexually abused. There's, you know, households where parents are, you know, having physical abuse with each other. We have all types of scenarios. The same scenarios that affect children in public school also affect children who are homeschooled. Homeschooling is not an isolated environment. We are still in the construct that we're living in. However, we are looking for healing ways to, you know, to be able to resurrect who we are and to separate ourselves from any structures that are damaging to the minds, bodies, and spirits of our children and families. But thank you so much for calling. I appreciate that so much. And that's a great point. That is a great point.
No problem.
Thank you, my sister. Keisha. Was it Keisha? Or did that?
Sorry, I hope that addresses your point. It's Kaisha, I believe.
Madasi was calling it Kaisha.
So don't worry. Okay, thank you, sister. Taese.
It's a minute.
It's getting late, you know.
We're just flowing with the vibe here.
And yeah, I mean, that is so important, because I think that is something that comes up time and time again. I'm the entrepreneur. It's all right you saying homeschool, but you know, who's going to bring the, you know, so forth and so forth. Like you said, there are definitely in the US, there are more institutions that, you know, the African presence in the US has been more longer, sustained and established. So there's definitely a long history of homeschooling, African-centered institutions, whether after school programs or Saturday schools or what have you. And in the UK, we did have in the, say, 60s and the 70s, we did have more Saturday schools trying to address our children's needs. Over the years, what they did, they offered us grants. Many of us took the grants, and after that, they pulled the grants, and the schools collapsed. And so we're just tied to and so we're just starting now once again to rebuild these homeschool institutions. They're just starting to grow. They're just starting to bud again. And we have the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, which is an online institution where people can go and find different alternative education for their children in their areas. We're trying to rebuild.
I think one of the things now that I'm seeing too, that I think is a really valid point to bring up, is we're talking about African-centered education, and you know, there's a difference between African-centered and just Black aware. You know, and so I see a lot of schools popping up saying, "Oh, we're cultural, we're African-centered," and there's nothing African-centered about the curriculum other than the fact that it's African people participating and they're teaching Black history, right? So it's more than that. You know, it's a way of life. It is not something that we teach as an addendum. You know what I mean? It's something that we're working for our children to embody, and that we're working more as parents to embody a way of a life. It's a liberation lifestyle. It's the way we try it every day, right? It's not just, you know, a feel-good moment, learn about this person and then go back to doing whatever. But you know, what are you taking from not just their accomplishments, but the things that they had to persevere through, you know, the things that their trials and tribulations and how they were able to create from the place that they were in. What are we taking and making a part of us? You know, so I want to make that clear distinction, that is, if we're going into, if we're looking for African-centered schools, we want to make sure, you know, I think the Nguzo Saba, the principles of Kwanzaa, is a great start to looking at, you know, all of those, asking those questions. You know, what are they determined about? What is their level of unity? What does that mean for them? If these concepts are foreign to them, then they're not African-centered. And if they're tied to a European political structure, right? A Urugu political structure, then there's some question to be had. And that's not to slight those who are on that journey, right? Definitely not to disrespect nor slight those who are now recognizing the importance of, you know, incorporating our culture. But there is a very big difference between the two.
And like you said, and I think that, as I said, it's not about dissing them. You know, you want to celebrate them because they're making that step. They're recognizing that there's work that we need to do in our community. That is all brilliant. But like you said, I think an African-centered approach, you know, in our organization, Brother Leader produced a book called Education and African-Centered Approach to Excellence. I don't know if you can see it, Education and African-Centered Approach.
Oh, wow.
And
is that something you can order?
I guess you can. We can get one to you. We're trying to re-edit it. So because it's in its infancy stage, it's more like a booklet than a complete book. But but
that's
definitely get
you know, that's beautiful. You know, we gotta have, you know, if it's not dealing with, if you look at the principles of the Nguzo Saba, if you look at Ma'at, If it has those two at its core, even if it's not necessarily under that name per se, but they're functioning with those core principles, then you know, and there's other, I'm not just going to say that because there's other indigenous traditions. However, those indigenous traditions generally reflect those similar principles.
Yes.
So even if it's in a different language, if it's a different way that it's carried out or celebrated or recognized, those similar principles are principles that we have, you know, had for thousands of years, you know, even our connection to the environment in the earth, right? The elements, the air, fire, water, earth, being at the ocean, the healing rituals, you know, teaching our children to read not just books, but can they read their environment? You know, when things start to change outside, you know, can they tell what's happening? Can they tell what's going on? You know, those are opportunities for them just to get out and touch, not just look at that frog on National Geographic. Can you go find it in nature, in your community? Can you identify the plants? Can you identify when the storm is coming? Can you tell? I remember when we had the eclipse, what was this, a couple years ago, I noticed that right before the eclipse, all the animals were silent. You didn't hear birds. You didn't see animals out and about. It was just really interesting. But that was one of the things I keyed into because we were outside experiencing it. And I said, you don't hear it. It was like total silence, total silence. But that said something to me is that the animals knew. This was before it happened. When it was gearing up to it, hours before, the animals knew. So if we pay attention to how they operate and how they function, you know, when tornadoes are coming and hurricanes are coming and all these different things, you know, can we tell the time of day without looking at our watch? You know, can we tell what direction we're walking in? That's equally as important, you know? Can we tell which herbs, if we run out of food and COVID-19 hit, the supermarkets were out of food. So we didn't have anything. Could you go outside and do some wild food foraging? And you know what to pick. You know, that's real. Like that's African-centered education.
That is
it's not looking at, you know, just what's in that textbook.
Yeah, that is it.
I got a question for me, Mama, okay?
Definitely. Go ahead, Brother Shakara.
Practical question, yeah. I know for many people, resources are an issue when we're dealing with homeschooling, particularly in subjects like science, yeah. And I know it's a particular concern for a lot of parents who are into home education. So I wonder if you have any advice to give in terms of develop, and not even just home educators, but people that are trying to develop independent African-centered educational institutions that are often, you know, heavy on passion but low on resources, right? And so it becomes an issue. So do you have any advice in terms of negotiating, administering science lessons for parents and home educating institutions?
Absolutely. I think the cheapest way is to use your environment. It's free. You know, if you're learning about plants, no, seriously, like you can go online, you can go on YouTube, or you can go and look up things that will give you certain types of experiments, right? But we also want to realize that, you know, African science and Yoruba science is a little different. So there's other things that we want to make sure that we talk about. But if you're, you know, you're looking at plants, if you're dissecting things, if you're doing some type of chemistry, you know, there's things that we can do. There is, what I would say is I have a list of different online science programs, and some of them have kits and things like that. They continue. I know there's science creations, there's fun, weird science. You know, they have kits that they ship you. I know my children took an online course in fun, weird science, and what they learned is they had some aluminum foil and they were opening it up. And I said, what is that? And I'm looking at it, it looks like poop. And I was like, what are y'all about to do, right? So it was actually an experiment with owls and how owls, when they eat, they regurgitate. After they eat, they regurgitate, which it comes out in a little ball and it looks like poop, but it wasn't. But anyway, what they had to do is they talked about the different things that owls ate, the different types of rodents, whether it was squirrels or I forgot the other kind that they were. It was about 3 or 4 different rodents. And so they had the bones of those particular rodents on a chart, and they literally had to dissect the pellet. They call it an owl pellet. They had to dissect it and they literally found the bones of different animals. They could tell what the owl ate, and they were able to look at this chart and say, oh, this belongs to the squirrel, or this belongs to the mouse, or, you know, so it was really interesting. And little things like that. And those are like kits, you know, and they're kits that just get shipped to you, makes it a lot easier. And then the kits, if you think about it, if you know what comes in the kit and you can't afford to buy the kit, that's all good too, because all those experiments are usually something you can find online and you can get creative. So, you know, lack of finances just means we have to really exercise our creativity to the highest degree, right? So the things that normally someone would package for us and give to us for a fee, now we cut out that middleman and we can go get some of those supplies ourselves. And sometimes it's just really simple concepts. You know, even with the weather, you know, looking at the weather, science experiments is about, you know, the sun, where the sun is, create a sundial. There's so many different things that we can do for free or next to nothing. We have to be willing to challenge ourselves to say, can we come outside of our box and be able to look for those types of avenues as well?
Good, thanks, sister. We got a question in the chat that says, how can we address STEM classes?
Yeah, that's right where we at right now. So address it, meaning, what do they mean specifically when they say it?
I'm going to assume teach, but or cater for, but let me ask Goddess Muse to clarify what do you mean by address, so that we can answer to your question. Yeah, so we're waiting for her to type. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you know, science, STEM is something that, you know, we got to be really careful with the STEM. STEM is what we've always been engrossed in, you know, like math and science go together. Who built the pyramids? I mean, let's just take it all the way back, right? So this is something that we've always been steeped in. We've always been the leaders of. And I think the fact that they're pushing this STEM thing, like is the newest and the latest and the greatest. I'm like, STEM has always been important. Engineering has been important. Botany has been important. Healing has been important. All these things have always been important. So why the push now? Why the big push towards STEM? And my thing is, you know, as we are guiding our children into these areas, we want to ask once again, is it good for African people? Because most of the STEM that's being promoted today is really to steer our children into jobs that are going to be anti-African. We have all these robots and everything, all this whole new world order that's being put into place. And there's going to be a lot of STEM jobs that are going to be available. And so, you know, reinforcing why we do what we do is so important, because I see so many of our brilliant minds take their skills and loan them to Monsanto, give them to all these corporate companies because they come in and ready to just pay them off to come in and perpetuate the evil and the diabolicalness that's on the planet now. So when we look at them, we got to ask, if we're doing robotics, if we're doing coding, how can this be used for African people? We got to push our children's dominion in their mindset to have dialogues around that so they can begin to create, you know, things that are going to be beneficial to us. So when we're thinking about STEM, I want everybody to keep that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sorry, Mamaka, I just want to supplement the sister's point, because what she said is so important, yeah? Because even in the African-centered community, there's this push for science and STEM. And we're forgetting to realize that when we're not operating in a world whereby we have independent institutions that are functioning in these fields towards our own endeavors. So when we're producing children that are skilled in these endeavors, we're really preparing them to go work for the European, right? We have
Absolutely.
to, right? We have to bear that in mind. The importance of what you just said is so deep that I don't want people to gloss over it. Yeah. So I'm just reading for the sake of that. We cannot just be following the trajectory, of the society that we live in, because they say this is important. We want to educate all of our children for this, and there may be a reason for it, in the sense of the fact that, you know your enemy. If your enemy is skilled in this particular department, you might want to prepare yourself for meeting that challenge. We get that, but we have to be sure that we're doing it from our own perspective and not following a trend and preparing ourselves or our children to work for our enemies, because we don't have the institution for them to work in those same fields. So Just
That's
want to.
right. And our children are being exploited all over. I know, there's a lot of things to see with our African children throughout the diaspora that are posted on YouTube, and this 10-year-old created this, and this, 8-year-old created that. And even, when we look at like even the whole system for the the Uber and all of that. And all they do is they come in, they pay us pennies, and we're so happy to receive a few pennies. And they go and they make billions of dollars off of it. Where if we can begin to use, to charge billions of dollars, if we're going to give it, or to create our own entities ourselves. But I mean, either way you look at it, at least we're building infrastructure. Either we're going to take that idea, and because if they're giving you their idea and telling you what they're going to do, then you sure can do it yourself and create a community that can also bring that funding around what you need. And if it's something that you're going to sell strategically, and get that $1 billion, and now you can take that $1 billion and be able to fund some of the institutions that exist, to be able to fund some of the endeavors of African people. And we've been doing that for a long time. A lot of our brothers and sisters years ago, back in the 50s and 60s, that we used to call them sellouts sometimes, right? Now I wasn't born in, but a lot of times that would be what I would hear. But then I started finding out that a lot of these people funded a lot of our African institutions and movements.
Exactly.
And so, it's everybody kind of has their role. Like everybody's not meant to be in the trenches. Let's just be real. Everybody's not meant to be in the trenches, but there is a role that we can play. I just say, just do your role. Just be in whatever you're supposed to be doing and be true to it. And there's an opportunity for us in STEM to really create some magnificent opportunities for our people, because our children are geniuses. They're working this stuff like it's just, they're born with it. They're just born with it. I look at my younger ones and I'm going to them. I got a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, and I'm like, can y'all help me out? 15-year-old, I'm lost. And they're like, oh, all you have to do is this. And I've been sitting here for 2 hours trying to figure it out, right? So they come here with this technology because, they come with this spiritual technology first. And then spiritual technology, the more rooted they get, the more we give birth to our children, to our seeds who have been nurtured through, healthier diets, meditation, healthier lifestyles, and all of these different elements. We have to know that we are going to be giving birth to the highest level of divinity. We cannot be serving them up the same old way of curriculum that we were served. We can't. They're going to totally rebel against it.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point. If we are doing better for ourselves and we are looking at ways to create stronger children, right, then we have to be able to meet the needs of that child. That's our role as parents. Bottom line, we have to meet their needs.
That's right. My sister, Brother Shakar, if you don't mind me coming in here.
I was going to say quickly, Goddess Muse updated a suggestion and said Afrocentric STEM. That's what we need. We need Afrocentric STEM. So.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly what we need. She hit it right on the head. Yes.
Yeah, don't worry. We're talking about African-centered education, and I think a very important aspect of African-centered education is learning African languages. And I'd just like to get your take on it, because I mean, as a movement, we've embedded and enshrined ourselves in the Shona language. Obviously, our prayers and so forth in Shona. And Saturday school, we've taught Twi, and now the children are learning Yoruba. So I just want to know what your thoughts are around it, because many of us, even though we want our children to have some kind of Black conscious education for our children, we don't see African language as important because they don't see how it's going to get them any jobs, or how, it's not a language of instruction. So what's the purpose of it?
Yes. I think, I know for a fact that African language is very important for our people. We've taught Swahili as well as Twi at the school for many years. And, even in our household, I think when we treat language as like a sidebar again, right? We want to incorporate it into our homes So, you know, when other children come around in our homes, you know, we greet them and they look at us. We got to explain sometimes, but it's a learning process. But the language is where the coding lies. The language is where our true story lies, our true ways and our thinking lies. So if there's a lot of concepts from an African language that cannot be translated into English. It's not possible, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a whole concept that's lost in terms of us being able to recall it forward. We know that it's there in the DNA, but to be able to call it forward and know what that is and know what that's like. And that's the importance of also connecting some of our African words with like what we call certain plants. Like the way I teach my children in psychology, the name of a plant is just the name that somebody gave it. So if there's a name that you feel you want to give it, you can give it that same name. It's your choice, right? There's no one to say that, okay, Yoruba's named this plant this, so that's the only name that exists. Because we know indigenously, if we go in different places, sometimes you look up an herb and it'll give you multiple names for that herb, right? So I look at the same thing. If we have indigenous names for things, the names that we have actually give a fullness of a meaning more than the English language. English language is a dead language. You know, our African languages have tone, they have vibration, they have rhythm, and it's another type of experience. So it's like when I say, if I say Madasi, you know, it's not just thank you. It's almost like it's an honoring, like it's like I lie at your feet, right? If you give a direct translation, which is very different than just, yeah, thank you, right? Yeah. I lie at your feet. I lie at your feet. It's like, you know what I mean? That's like the ultimate honor. Yeah. So it gives a whole nother, I'm trying to say the word, just gives a whole nother context to how we're supposed to function as African people. So I say, you know, just start. I don't know any African language fluently, but I know basic, you know, conversation. And we just start with where we are, you know, that's it. And that's all we can ever do, start with where we are, but we have to have the goal and the intention set in mind that that's something that we want to incorporate.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we're talking about Sankofa. To go back, if you really want to learn the culture, to really understand the culture, you have to learn the language. You're always going to be limited in how much you understand the culture without the language. So I mean, that's something that we encourage our parents that learn the language is very important. Go ahead, Bruce.
To add to that, just to add to the example, the Madasi example, I would also say it's important for us understanding the linkages in our diaspora. The language is often the missing link, and I just give you what that is concerned. When you're talking in Sierra Leone, they have all of West Africa, they have the pidgin, what they call Creole, in Sierra Leone, and it's very similar to what we have in the Caribbean and like the Carolinas in relation to how we speak, right? So a greeting in Sierra Leone, typically in Creole, when you're greeting somebody, you say howdy body, howdy body, literally, how is your body, right? But quite literally, when we say wahutu se, literally thinking it means how is your body, literally. There's another greeting in Tree, which is mpomue, or something. Maybe I'm pronouncing that slightly wrong, but it's something like that, and it means how is the inside of your joints, or something like that. But you're asking about the well-being of the person.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that there's a context to mpomue, which I've forgotten, but it has to do with literally the state of your joints at a particular point of the day, like the morning, for example. When you get up or something like that, you see what I'm saying? So now in Creole, now when we've been through this whole enslavement process, and if you understand anything about the Creole language, it began with Africans being indoctrinated into English, but also Africans who went back to the continent. So you see how we held on to the elements of our culture, and it manifested back again on the continent with howdy body, which is now this Creole for a greeting. You see what I'm saying? So the language is very important in that.
And even the sincerity of that is so much greater, because a lot of times you say how you doing, you never even stop to hear how the person is doing. You know what I mean? You already know.
Hi. Hi, how you doing? Sounds long. Hi.
Exactly. So the intention was not really to know how they're doing. And then if someone starts telling you how they're doing, then you're kind of looking like, I just said, how are you doing? Like, I didn't really want to know how you were doing. It just, so it's a totally different culture. Totally different culture. Yeah.
I'd like to let brothers and sisters know that we are going to be hearing from Brother Leader Bandaka, the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist movement, who always, at the end of these presentations, like to, we'd like to call him to just give his take and a synopsis on the discussion today, as well as because also it is our last session for this season. So Tenda More. Shakara, you can give us a time check. Where we at?
We're at 9:10. So you kind of wrap up 20 minutes. So yeah.
So much for 45 minutes.
Now, that was your presentation.
That was your presentation. Yeah. You're good, sis.
Oh, okay. So we're good. Okay.
Yeah. But don't encourage us, sis. We'll be here all night with you. Oh, she dropped off. I'm sure she'll come back in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. A brother Anika in the chat says, I think Howdy Body is also using Gambia too. Yeah, because there's a Creole everywhere, kings and queens. Yeah. We're just waiting. Sis Queen Taese coming back because she just dropped off a second ago. It's powerful though, Mama Kai. I don't know what vibes you get from it, but I knew this was the right sister for the job.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without
you spoke about it, and it's like okay.
Yes. No, sis, before you dropped off, I was saying not to encourage us too much because we will have you here whole night.
I not be here the whole night. Yeah, this has been amazing. This has just been so sacred. Yes.
Definitely. Brother Shakara, do you want to? I can just ease my seat and let Brother Leader take up his piece.
That's fine.
And
well, I'll let people know what's happening for next.
Do some closing. Do we do some closing?
Yes.
Brother Leader. Mm-hmm.
All right. Tendamwari, kings and queens. All right, just to let you know, the details for our Mosiah month events can be found at Alkebu-Lan.org. I'll type that in the chat for you right now. Alkebu-Lan.org/Mosiah. We only really have one session left, which is a radio session. We have a radio show on Galaxy Radio in the UK, but it's online also, and you find details at Alkebu-Lan.org/Mosiah. The subject for our show on the 31st, Kujichagulia Day, the third month, which is Monday, the 31st of Mosiah, because we don't call them off August kings and queens, we call it Mosiah. So Kujichagulia Day, the second day of the week, the month of Mosiah, is going to be Chinzira Kaina, out there in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, and the subject is going to be what is the link between spirituality and African liberation? What is the link between spirituality and African liberation? For those of you who joined us yesterday, you got a taste, a flavor of the energy of our sister Chenzila Kaina, and so we're going to give you the full 2 hours this coming Kulichagulia Day, kings and queens, and that will conclude powerfully our Mosiah series with the most important subject. As well as that, we host monthly worship as the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist movement. So if you go to Alkebu-Lan.org, you will see a tab that says Shumira. Shumira in the Shona language of Zimbabwe means worship. And so this is where we, every first Sunday of the month, we ritualize and evoke the spirits of our ancestors in ritual form, in fellowship, kings and queens. So do feel free to join us. At the moment, for our brothers and sisters across the water, through COVID, we're online. But the blessing is that you can join us online, kings and queens. So if you want to join us, feel free to check out Alkebu-Lan.org/Shumira, or just hit that tab, the Shumira tab, and you'll find details of how to join us online for our Shumira. And with that, I think we can bring in Brother Lee.
Right. Okay. Before we do that, Brother Shakara, our Saturday school is also online. Yes. So the Alkebu-Lan Academy of Excellence is online every Saturday. It's a little WhatsApp Zoom group, and it's beautiful because we've got children from California, Wales, all over the African world. So we just do 2 hours, approximately 1.5 to 2 hours every morning, because it is online and they're young children. But it was just beautiful. So we do have African history and Yoruba, or it could be maths and African history, or Yoruba and maths. And yeah, it's just really nice to have, and English language and communication. We haven't had a lot of that, but mainly we always try to make sure African history is at the core. So,
okay. So before you go on, your last statement is kind of related to this question. Probably it should be answered if we got time before we bring Revelina, which is how has your homeschooling changed with COVID? And I think probably both of you can answer this in terms of the Saturday school as well as Queen Taese with the homeschooling. How has it changed?
Well, for me, it has changed because the numbers have grown. The people who thought I was crazy are now want to hang out. No, it is. I think in a lot of ways it's strengthened because, I think COVID is a true reminder of what we're facing and dealing with. So I find, there's a lot more coming forward who are serious and ready to take action. And then also, we're now getting a lot of parents who are forced to homeschool due to the schools being closed that are now looking for either converting to actually homeschooling intentionally or just looking for some support around like, what is this about? And, my response is, you're gonna be schooling at home anyway. You might as well just, full out homeschool with your own intentions involved. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's just, it's brought awareness to a lot of things around the educational system and how it functions in our role as parents.
Okay, thanks.
all right. Tenamori, give thanks for that, my sister. Tenamori, I'm just going to take this opportunity now to call the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement, Brother Leader Bandaka, who is going to just share with us and close this evening and afternoon session off. Tenamori.
Tenamori.
Yeah.
Tenamori. Tenamori. Mar mukurukuru. Uzai muzimukuru. Tenamori. Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Giving thanks and praises unto Mwari Nyakusika, God the creator of the universe, through Mudumumukuru, our great ancestors, for life, for the meaning and purpose of life, for health and strength and daily food, and for all mercies, great and small. And amongst those mercies, we are blessed to have gathered here in the African universe, as it were, to honor the life and the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, in the season of Mosiah, to shine the spotlight on his philosophy, on his vision, and to reaffirm our commitment as a people, as an African family, to re-implement the powerful, magnificent vision of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We give thanks and praise unto Mwari Nyakusika, God the creator of the universe, our great ancestors, who have blessed us this evening with a very powerful message from an awesome sister, a sister I have not met before in the physical, but who has such a radiant smile that she has lit up my soul this evening, and I'm sure the souls of all of us Africans who have been tuning in. Sister Taese, Queen Taese, to you we give our blessings. We say Tatenda, we say Medasi Papa, we say Asante Sana, we say Oshe, give thanks and praises. Thank you very much for blessing us so richly this evening with your wisdom, with your insight, and sharing with us the depth of love and passion you have for our children, our most precious gift from the divine. Nothing is more precious than our children. Nothing, therefore, is more important than the time we spend planning and organizing for their empowerment, for their liberation. So we give thanks and praises for the message this evening. And before I forget, let me also give praises and hail the elements for also connecting us with Brother Sobele.
Yes.
From the motherland, straight from the motherland, from Zimbabwe. And as Sister Kahi shared, this is a brother we were blessed to have met in Barbados at the African and African Descendants World Conference against racism and xenophobia in 2002. And our brother tore up the place. When he spoke, everyone was on their feet. And it took minutes before the organizers could get everything back in order, because everybody wanted to press the flesh of this brother, not just heal him, but come up to the platform and press his flesh, because his message was so powerful and so riveting. I just want to share a few thoughts around the message that we have received this evening, the topic that we've raised up this evening, which is educate to liberate. Educate to liberate. If we understand, I would wish to suggest, beloved brothers and sisters, that if we, in our African wisdom, truly understand the concept of education, and we understand the real etymological root of the word education, and I don't mean educare, which is the Greco-Roman origin, but the ancient Kemetian, medunecta. The concept of, when you look at the term education, educare, we actually see African components in that word. We see when we see the word or the component edu, and we look at the ancient medu, as in medunecta, we see the word medu means the word or power of the word, and nature means God, or God the creator manifested through the forces of nature. If you remove the M, the M character, we get the first two syllables of education, edu, medu, edu. And edu means to bring out. Doesn't mean to put in, it means to bring out. To bring out the nature of. To bring out that which is already within. Because if we understand that we, being created by a divine force, being brought into being by a divine force, then we are ourselves divine, and that which comes from us is divine. And so it is the God essence of our princes and princesses that we are mining, if you will. We are tapping into, and we are enabling them to give expression to. We are cultivating the God essence in our children. So educare, edu, to bring out, ka is actually an ancient Kemetian word, which means the soul. Re is Ra, Ra, which means God. God manifested through the sun. We are the sun people. Educare, to bring out the soul of Ra, the soul of God in this little human being. That is the challenge that faces us. And so education, if we understand that word from an African-centered perspective is always liberating. So when we say educate to liberate, we shouldn't even need to say to liberate, because if we're not educating to liberate, what then are we educating for? What then is the purpose of education if not to liberate? And again, I say, and if we look at medu nectar, medu, the word, it also means manifestation, which is the outward expression of that which comes from within, edu. So medu nectar, let me say, medu also means communication. So medu nectar, God, the divine manifesting through the force of nature. It is the manifestation of God. So that what we are engaged in is enabling our children to manifest their divine essence, their divine nature. This is why our African-centered education is of fundamental importance in our fight for total liberation, because we will win or lose this fight through our children. It will not happen through us. It will happen through our children. They are the warriors of the now, of the present. And we are the teachers. We are the guide. We are the sources of knowledge and education and nurturing. And I love the way our sister conflated education with socialization.
Yes.
Because my beloved sister, you are absolutely correct. There is no division in African tradition between our spirituality, our socialization, our education of our children. To educate is to socialize. The program of the Rites of Passage program is at once an educational as well as a program of socializing our children. Our great and late brilliant scholar, Baba Asa Hilliard, I'm sure you know who our brother is, my beloved sister.
Yes.
Defines education as, he says, education is not just for the purpose of learning. It is not just for the purpose of becoming bright. He says education is for the purpose of transforming the learner through progressive stages to become more godlike.
Yes.
I can't find a better definition of education. That is the challenge. That is the challenge, to bring out the God from within. And if we understand the nature of Mwari, Oludumare, Unkulunkulu, these are names, the many names across the length and breadth of the African continent for the Creator. Mogai, Ngai, Nobukuwane. These are names of these are African names for calling on the Creator of the universe.
Shame.
And the fundamental nature of the Creator, as we say in the Shona language of Zimbabwe, which is the spiritual language of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, is Mwari Nyakusika. God the creator of the universe. And that teaches us, we learn that Mwari is self-created and self-creating. And so our primary task is to instill in our children the consciousness that they are by nature self-creating. They have the capacity to self-create and to create around themselves, to make manifest their divine will by the way they express that will on matter that surrounds them. And that leads us to the next attribute of the Creator. In Shona we say, Mwari Anemasimba, God the omnipotent. The omnipotent. We raise our children to understand that they have unlimited powers. Unlimited power to fulfill their natural and informed will. Let me just also mention Mwari, and I would say Mwari and the Masimba. Mwari Ari Kwese Kwese. Mwari the omnipresent. The omnipresent refers to the connectedness with all elements and forces of the universe. My sister, you talked about that connectedness, the family, the community, the nation. Brother Sabella put it out there, and I'm not going to be much longer, brothers and sisters. Don't worry, I'm not going to be much longer, but I'm very, very inspired.
Yes,
I'm very inspired by this message this evening, my beloved sister.
Yes.
I look forward to us. You want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just very grateful and humbled. Just, you know, you really hit me in the soul, you know, with your sharing and your passion and just the energy. So I appreciate it. I'm receiving and very grateful.
Tendai Mwari, what we're experiencing and witnessing is the unfolding of Ma'at, that element of Ma'at that is reciprocity. Because you've hit me in the soul, my sister. You've hit all of us in the soul. So I'm giving back to you a little bit of what you've given me so richly this evening. I'm so inspired, my beloved sister. Brother Sabella put it out there this evening that we need to connect our forces around the globe. And I want to reinforce that call that our brother made this evening. We have to make these connections that we've made throughout the month of Mosiah. It's interesting that this year, the year 6260, that is based on our ancient Kemetic calendar, this year 6260 marks the centenary of the first international convention of the African people of the world. And because of this pandemic, I said pandemic, not pandemic, because of this pandemic, we have been made to connect with each other internationally in a manner that we probably would not have.
Yes.
Yes. So this is us taking advantage of this situation to actually globalize our Pan-Africanism, which is what the essence of Pan-Africanism is. And when we think about that international convention from which came the flag of the red, the black, and the green, Africans came from all over the world and converge on Madison Square Garden. We can do it again. In this age of advanced science and technology, if we could have done it 100 years ago, why can't we do it now in the flesh? Because we can't always rely on technology that we don't control, so that the oppressor will know our business. One more point I want to make before I withdraw, beloved brothers and sisters. I think it was alluded to, but I want to illuminate this very, very important point. All education occurs within the context of culture and nation building. We must put seriously the issue of nation building, organizing ourselves as a sovereign entity. That's what we mean by nation. A people organized as a sovereign entity. That has got to be at the foundation of our vision for an African-centered education. Otherwise, we are discussing education in a vacuum. Beloved sister, you mentioned John Henry Clark. Baba John Henry Clark says, people rise and fall. No, he says, sorry, not that quote, but he says, whatever it is that we do in the name of liberation, whatever it is that we do, great, wonderful. But if it does not include nation building, then we are wasting our time.
Yeah, shame. Shame.
What are we educating our children for if it is not to run, own, and control, shape, and develop their own nation, their own humanity, their own civilization? And Papa Garvey says nationhood is the highest ideal of a people. And if we are not working towards nationhood, what are we educating our children for? Isn't that the liberation that we are educating our children for? Or Brother Shakara, did you want to come in, my sister?
Yeah, I was just saying, Ashe.
I'm not asking you to come in. I'm just asking you, did you want to come in? If you do, please come in.
Yes, I just wanted to just comment just to say that was right in alignment. You know, I love that quote from Nana Clark where he says that everything that touches our lives should be a tool of liberation, or we should throw it in the trash can of history.
Absolutely.
And I think that's it's just a great way to look at, to decipher what is good for our children, you know, whether it's what they watch, what they wear, what they eat, you know, just really being able to dissect each and every fiber of what we do and why we do what we do.
That's
so,
right.
Yes, so that resonated with me in that space.
Yeah, man. Is it good for African people? That is the question.
Yes.
Well, first of all, is it African? And then is it good for African people? But I'm moving very, very quickly. You know, you mentioned also Baba Amos Wilson. Baba Amos Wilson, great brother. Wonderful, powerful thinker and orator. And he says to us that children learn best. Look at that word best. We have to ask ourselves, do we want what's best for our children? Or will second best, third best, fourth best do?
Yes. Blueprint for Black Power. Yes.
Children learn best when they can see themselves in their own learning materials and when they are educated in their own cultural and social matrix. We need to take that seriously.
Yes.
And then to look at the words also of Baba Jawanza Konjufu,
yes,
who says, you cannot teach a child you don't love. You cannot teach a child you don't respect. And you cannot teach a child you don't culturally understand. Let me say that one more time. You cannot teach a child you don't love. You cannot teach a child you don't respect. And you cannot teach a child you do not culturally understand. And we know that our children do not, in essence, experience love, respect, and cultural understanding in the public school system. And therefore, we have a work to do to build our African-centered schools. That is a tremendous task that is before us, and we must prioritize that because it is about our children. Let me give thanks and praises. Words. Close with the words, as I always do, of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who says, unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Brother Leader, give thanks for that. Brother Leader, give thanks. Indeed.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Yes, Brother Leader, give thanks for those closing words there. And we just want to once again thank our sister Queen Taese for joining us and lighting up the internet with this powerful presentation. I do want to say this, and I wouldn't normally go here, but it's necessary because we got to prick ourselves sometimes, kings and queens. If this was about some social media hype about certain brothers and sisters who are trying to build schools, but are not necessarily doing very well with it at the moment, this will be full of people having something to say, and you know, making criticisms and critiques, rightfully or wrongfully so, kings and queens. And I think that we need to do a better job of recognizing that there are African-centered educational institutions in our community, and do a better job of talking about the people that are at the center of them. Yes, as we do the hype that is going on right about now. And I'm saying that because I know this for a fact. I've actually tested this on social media, where I've posted a whole list, including Queen Taese, yeah, of works that are taking place in our community when certain other stories are flooding the internet. And the people them that are flooding whatever post, yeah, and commenting on whatever the likes and the dislikes and the whatever, are not as quick to share information about work that is actually fundamentally, foundationally, and tangibly taking place in our community. So let it be our mission, yeah, to spread the work and the name Queen Taese, yeah, from here on out. Make her name, yeah, as popular as any other African out there that is doing African liberation work, kings and queens. And every time, yeah, we share something negative in our community in regards to an educational agenda, make sure we share the name Queen Taese and the Liberated Minds Educational Institute alongside that work, kings and queens, because I know what I'm talking about. I'm out here in these social media streets, and I see or no, yeah? And so I want to make that very, very clear, and I want to make that very, very plain. Right, I'm going to hand over to Mama Kai or Uncle Olatunji to close us out.
I just want to say before Brother Olatunji comes in, he will be reading the Mosiah testimony to close us off. I just say to Tenda, Medase Papa, Sister Taese, it was such a pleasure to have you this evening. And I'm just looking forward to
joy. This has really been.
I know
it's very sacred. Very, very much a joy being here.
Definitely. I said all them names you were calling. I said, oh, it's such a relief to hear somebody just Mama Marimba reading off Papa John Henry Clark. Oh my God, all these people that we hold so dear to us. Yeah. It's so important. It's so beautiful to hear that. And the work that you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. I just hope you continue to have the strength to build on what you're doing, and those around you support you with your mission and your vision, so you can fulfill your purpose.
Yes, likewise, and I appreciate this platform and the love, and this is a house of healing here. I feel it even through the virtual platform. It's a healing space.
Definitely.
And so I'm in gratitude for just being here, and having the opportunity to connect with all these wonderful energies.
Yes.
And I'm gonna continue doing this work. And we're going to further connect. There's no end to this. So we're going to keep on, making it stronger.
Tenamoi, Brother Shakara, before we come over, put in the chat, I know you produced some learning materials as well. Maybe you need to put that information in the chat so people can get access to that as well. Tenamoi. Maybe you want to say as well for everybody that can access the chat.
Don't worry. So, but just Mama Kai is referring to meducation.com. That's MEDUKATION.com. And in fact, I was scheduled to link with Queen Taese, and I was out in Atlanta, but she was out there.
I think I was coming in town, and you were.
Yeah, I was about to go out. Yeah, So it goes, but not before it's time, my sister. But yeah, the whole aim of education is to really develop one African-centered learning aids for African children, and two, to develop practice and practitioners in African-centered education. So in terms of what Brother Sabelo was talking about earlier, in terms of teacher training, that's really the ultimate goal, of the project, to collate this African-centered theory and practice in such a way that we can present it for people that want to become practitioners in the field, because it's very important that we develop expertise in the field of African-centered education, so that we're able to, properly cater for our children in our community. So that's the ultimate aim, what I'm saying, and we're hoping that the demand will develop with the development of the program. So we know that, we're dealing with a small and marginal community at the moment, but we'll get there. We have to start somewhere and develop, grow. So we look forward to feasting on the wellspring of the knowledge from Queen Taese, so that we can add to the program.
Yes, I trust it will all happen. I trust and know that it definitely will come into manifestation and fruition. So I'm ready. Let's go.
Yes. Thank you for that, Mama Kai. Madasi.
Brother Olatunji, please.
Tendamari.
holding this ship together.
No problem. Right. But before I read Mosiah's testimony, let me just give a vote of thanks for those who we need to really give credit for this Mosiah season 62-60. I want to give thanks initially to Brother Leader Bandaka, the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, not only for his leadership, also his vision in propagating the Mosiah observance since the year 6238, which some people will call 1998. Also want to head up the leadership of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, as well as all the members of the movement as well. Want to head up Chief Pagombabai and the management of Galaxy Radio, as well as all the Galaxy pilots. Also really need to hail up all of the family that have contributed this year to Mosiah season. Want to give special credit to our brother Shakara for being instrumental in putting together this year's Mosiah program. But some of our speakers have included our brother Minister Malak, brother Ifayomi Grant, brother Tristan Samuels, Mambo Amamazama, Sister Kai Wagadao Bandeka, Chief Fode Ajamu Mansarai, and Sister Kenya Malinke Mansarai, Sister Chenzira Kahina, as well as this evening, our very own Queen Taese, as well as to you, sisters and brothers, the entire African community that have logged in, tuned in, contributed, asked questions, and helped raise the vibration of Mosiah in this time when it's so needed. So I want to hear all you up, sisters and brothers, for this Mosiah season 62-60. Next tradition is our movement to close with Mosiah's testimony. These words sound, these divine words sound from the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And they are, well, I intend, with your help and God's grace, to continue, because my work has only just begun. And future generations shall have in their hands a guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. I do, and I know you too believe in time. We shall wait patiently for 200 years if need be, to face our enemies for our posterity. When my enemies are satisfied, in life I shall come back, or in death, even to serve you as I served before. In life I shall be the same. In death I shall be a terror to the foes of Africa, the enemies of my people. If death has power, then count on me to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a plague or a pestilence, or as God would have me, then be assured I would never desert you or make your enemies triumph over you. Would I not go to hell 1,000,000 times for you? Would I not walk the earth forever for you? Would I not lose the whole world and eternity for you? Would I not cry forever before the footstool of the Lord omnipotent for you? Would I not die 1,000,000 deaths for you? Then why be sad? Cheer up and be assured that if it takes 1,000,000 years, the sins of our enemies shall visit the 1,000,000th generation of those who hinder and oppress us. If I die in Atlanta, then my work will only just then begin. For I shall live in the physical or the spiritual to see the day of Africa's glory. When I'm dead, wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around me. For in the new life I shall rise up with God's grace and blessings to lead the millions to the heights of the triumph of the colors that you all know. Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, in the West Indies, those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life. Tendai. Such is the word sounds of our eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Say hail to the proud of word. Hail to the proud of word. Hail to the proud of word.
Hail to the proud of word.
Sisters and brothers, I want to say to Tenda Madasi, Asante Sana, to all of you who've joined us for this Mosiah season. This is our final online Mosiah session for the year 62-60. As was mentioned earlier, please join us again for our final Mosiah session on the radio next Kujuguli Day, the 31st, between 8 and 10 p.m. www.galaxyafiwi.com to deal with the subject. What is the connection between African spirituality, and African liberation? So, sister and brother, we're going to close it out here and now with our closing words. So, our sisters and brothers, if you're able to assume a posture of reverence, or as we do, a left hand on our heart and a right hand in the air, if we say our closing words, let's remind ourselves to take from here all that we've learned in knowledge, information, and inspiration out into the streets, our personal life, our place of work, our place of study, amongst our families and friends, wherever we find Africans, Let us Africans everywhere know let us always be a shining light among Africans everywhere. The Africans everywhere know that Mwari, Nabukwane, Ndume, Sidume, and Ndambi, Nananyame, the African God, reigns supreme. The Africans everywhere know that it is a joy to be an African. And the Africans everywhere know that liberation is indeed at hand. Tendai Mwari, Tendai Mwari, Tendai Mwari. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Hello. Sister and brothers, eternal blessings to Queen Taese and the entire African family that joined us this evening for this power nation building session we've had. Join us again. Check out Alkebu-Lan.org for more information about our Mosiah season, more information about the Alkebu-Lan Bible movement and our works. We just give thanks. Go safely into your future endeavors and let us all meet again sometime soon. Tendai Mwari.